She collapsed on a train platform surrounded by 1,000 people, and only one man stopped. His name was Luca Moretti, and when he caught her before she hit the ground, he saw something no one else did: the bruises beneath her sleeve, the hollow terror in her eyes, and the truth she'd been hiding for months. What he didn't know yet was that saving her life would unravel his own. This is the story of how two broken people found each other in the darkest corner of New York City, and how love became the most dangerous thing either of them had ever touched. If you're here for the journey, hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. Now let's begin. Unit. The fluorescent lights of the subway platform flickered like they were trying to die. Elena Voss stood near the yellow line, swaying slightly, her vision blurring at the edges. She'd stopped noticing the cold weeks ago, stopped noticing hunger around the same time. Her body had become something separate from her, a thing that moved through the world while the real her stayed locked somewhere deep inside, unreachable. She was 27 years old and she weighed 93 pounds. The train screamed into the station, brakes shrieking metal against metal. The crowd surged forward. Elena took a step and her knee buckled. Just a little, not enough for anyone to notice. She caught herself on nothing but will, the same way she'd been doing for months now. Her shift at St. Catherine's Hospital had ended 4 hours ago, but she'd stayed late to avoid going home. Home wasn't home anymore. It was a studio apartment in Queens where Derek Hale waited, where the walls remembered every raised voice and broken promise, where she'd learned to make herself small enough to disappear. The train doors opened. People pushed past her. Elena tried to move forward, but her legs had stopped listening. The platform tilted. Someone's shoulder caught hers and she stumbled, reaching for the metal pole, but her hand closed on air. Then the ground rushed up to meet her. Except it didn't. Strong hands caught her beneath the arms, hauling her back from the edge. The world steadied. Elena blinked, trying to focus, and found herself staring at a perfectly pressed charcoal suit. Expensive fabric, the kind that didn't belong on the downtown 6 train at 11 o'clock on a Thursday night. Easy. The voice was low, controlled. I've got you. She looked up. The man holding her had dark eyes that seemed to catalog everything in a single glance. Her two thin wrists, the way she flinched at sudden touch, the careful way she held herself like someone who'd learned to expect pain. His face was all sharp angles and controlled intensity, the kind of handsome that felt dangerous rather than safe. I'm fine, Elena said automatically. The words came out thin, unconvincing. You just collapsed. I'm fine, she repeated, pulling away from his grip. Her legs shook, but she locked her knees, refusing to fall again. Thank you. I'm fine. He didn't let go immediately. His hand stayed on her arm, steadying her, and for a moment Elena felt something she hadn't felt in months, the presence of someone who actually saw her. Not the carefully constructed version she showed the world, the real her, with all the cracks. When did you last eat? He asked. The question caught her off guard. That's not... When? This morning. A lie. Yesterday. Also a lie. Tuesday, maybe. She couldn't remember. His jaw tightened. He looked past her shoulder, scanning the platform with the kind of awareness that suggested military training or something else entirely. When his gaze came back to her, it had softened fractionally. There's a diner across the street, he said. Let me buy you dinner. I don't know you. Luca Moretti. He said it like the name should mean something. Now you do. Elena shook her head, already backing away. Strangers didn't help. Strangers wanted something. That was the rule Derek had spent 2 years teaching her, each lesson more painful than the last. I have to go. She turned toward the train, but Luca moved with her, not blocking her path, but staying close. You're going to pass out again if you get on that train. I'll be fine. You keep saying that. Because it's true. It's not. The train doors started to close. Elena lurched forward, but Luca's hand caught her sleeve, and the fabric pulled up, exposing her wrist. They both saw it at the same time. The bruise was 5 days old, faded to a sickly yellow green, but the shape was unmistakable. Finger marks. 4 of them circling her wrist like a brand. Elena jerked her arm back, yanking the sleeve down, but the damage was done. Luca's expression had gone very still, not shocked, worse than shocked, knowing. Don't, she said. I wasn't going to say anything. Good. But you're not getting on that train. You can't. I can't tell you what to do, Luca agreed. His voice stayed level, but something underneath it had changed, hardened into certainty. But I can tell you that if you pass out on the downtown 6 at this hour, you'll wake up in an ER. If you're lucky. Is that what you want? Elena's throat tightened. She didn't want anything. Want required energy she didn't have. The diner, Luca said again. 20 minutes. Just food. Then you can leave. She should say no. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but her vision was blurring again and her hands had started shaking, and the truth was, she didn't think she could make it home. Not tonight. Maybe not ever. Just food, she heard herself say. Just food. The diner was exactly what it claimed to be. Cracked vinyl booths, fluorescent lighting that made everyone look half dead, and coffee that tasted like it had been brewing since the Clinton administration. Elena sat across from Luca in a corner booth, her hands wrapped around a mug of coffee she hadn't drunk yet. He'd ordered for both of them without asking. Pancakes, eggs, bacon, toast. The food arrived fast and he pushed the plate toward her without ceremony. Eat. Elena stared at the food. Her stomach cramped at the sight of it, hunger and nausea twisted together. I'm not... Eat, Luca said again. Not harsh, almost gentle. Please. She picked up the fork. Her hand trembled. The first bite of pancake hit her system like a shock, and suddenly she was eating, really eating, tearing through the food with desperate efficiency, while Luca sat across from her and pretended not to watch. When the plate was half empty, she slowed down, embarrassment creeping in. Sorry, she muttered. Don't be. She set the fork down. Luca pushed his untouched plate toward her, and she almost laughed. Almost. I'm not taking your food. I already ate. Liar. Eat it anyway. She did. Not all of it, but enough. When she finally pushed the plate away, Luca signaled the waitress for more coffee. How long? He asked. How long what? How long has he been hitting you? The words landed like a slap. Elena's breath caught. She should have expected it. The bruise had given her away, but hearing it said out loud made it real in a way she hadn't been ready for. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. This is none of your business. I know. Then why are you... Because someone should, Luca said. Simple as that. Like it was the most obvious thing in the world. Elena felt tears burn behind her eyes, but she blinked them back. Crying would make this real. Crying would mean admitting defeat. I can handle it, she said. Can you? Yes. You passed out on a subway platform. I was tired. You're starving. I'm fine. Stop saying that. For the first time, Luca's control cracked. His voice went hard, edged with something Elena couldn't name. You're not fine. You're dying. Slowly, maybe, but you're dying. And the man who did that to your wrist is the reason why. Elena's hands clenched around the coffee mug. You don't know anything about my life. I know enough. You know nothing. I know what happens next, Luca said. The hardness in his voice shifted into something else. Experience, maybe. The kind that came from seeing too much. He gets worse. They always do. One day it's a bruise on your wrist. Next time it's your ribs. Then your face. Then you end up in St. Catherine's ER with a story about falling downstairs that nobody believes, but everyone pretends to. Elena's breath stuttered. How do you... Because I've seen it before. Who are you? Luca didn't answer immediately. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card, sliding it across the table. Heavy cardstock, embossed lettering. No company name, just a phone number. Someone who can help, he said. Elena looked at the card without touching it. I don't need help. Then don't call, but keep it anyway. Why? Because eventually you will. You. The certainty in his voice made her chest tighten. She picked up the card, more to make him stop looking at her like that than anything else. The cardstock was smooth, expensive, real. I should go, she said. Where? Home. To him. It wasn't a question. Elena stood up, legs still shaky but holding. Thank you for dinner. Luca stood too. Let me give you a ride. No. Elena? How do you know my name? He gestured to the hospital ID badge still clipped to her scrub top. You're wearing it. Right, of course. She felt stupid for asking. I'll take the train, she said. At midnight. Alone. After collapsing. I'll manage. Luca's jaw worked. I can't force you to accept help. No, you can't. But I can make sure you get home safe. I said no. I heard you. He pulled out his phone, typed something, then showed her the screen. My driver is outside. He'll take you wherever you need to go, no questions. I won't even be in the car. Elena stared at the phone, then at Luca. This didn't make sense. Strangers didn't do things like this, not without wanting something in return. What do you want? She asked. For you to not die on a subway platform. That's it? That's it. She didn't believe him, couldn't believe him, but her legs were still shaking and the thought of getting back on the train made her want to cry. Just to my apartment, she said. That's all. That's all. The car was a black Mercedes, clean and expensive and completely silent inside. The driver was a broad-shouldered man in his 50s who didn't say a word as Elena gave him the address in Queens. She sat in the back seat watching the city blur past through tinted windows and tried to process what had just happened. A stranger had caught her, fed her, offered help. She didn't know what to do with that. Her phone buzzed, a text from Derek. Where are you? Her stomach clenched. She typed back quickly. Working late. Almost home. You said that an hour ago. I'm on my way now. You better be. The threat was implicit. Elena locked her phone and stared out the window. 20 more minutes. She could handle 20 more minutes. The car pulled up outside her building, a rundown walk-up in Astoria with windows that never quite shut properly. Elena reached for the door handle, but the driver spoke for the first time. Ma'am? She turned. He was holding out a bag. White paper, grease-stained. The smell hit her immediately. More food. Mr. Moretti asked me to give you this, the driver said. Elena took the bag automatically. Inside were containers of diner food, carefully packed. Enough for days. I didn't... He knows, the driver said. Have a good night, ma'am. Then she was standing on the sidewalk, watching the Mercedes pull away, holding a bag of food and a business card with nothing but a phone number on it. Derek was waiting in the apartment. He sat on the couch in the dark, remote control in one hand, beer in the other. The TV wasn't on. That was how Elena knew he was angry. You're late, he said. I texted you. We had an emergency admission. Don't lie to me. I'm not... You think I'm stupid? Derek stood up. He was a big man, 6'2" and broad through the shoulders. Once upon a time, Elena had found that comforting. Safe. Now it just meant she couldn't run. I called the hospital. They said you left at 7. Elena's mouth went dry. I stayed late to help with charts. You stayed late to do what? See someone? No, Derek, I swear. Then where the hell were you? I told you I was... He closed the distance between them in 2 strides. Elena backed up, but there was nowhere to go, just the wall and his hand slamming into the plaster next to her head, hard enough to make her flinch. I'm going to ask you one more time, Derek said. His voice was very quiet, very controlled. That was worse than yelling. Where were you? The subway. The truth spilled out before she could stop it. I got dizzy. I almost fell. Someone helped me. That's all. I swear that's all. Derek's eyes narrowed. Someone. A stranger. I don't even know his name. Another lie. She was getting good at those. Man or woman? Does it matter? Man or woman, Elena? Man, she whispered. But nothing happened. He just... Derek's fist hit the wall again, closer this time. Elena felt the air displacement against her cheek. You let another man touch you. I was going to pass out. I don't care. Derek, shut up. He grabbed her arm, the same arm Luca had touched, and his fingers dug into the exact spots where the old bruises were still healing. Elena gasped. You don't talk to other men. You don't let them touch you. You don't accept their help. Do you understand me? Yes. Do you? Yes. I understand. I'm sorry. The pressure on her arm increased. Elena bit down on her lip, refusing to make a sound. That only made it worse. Finally, Derek let go. He walked back to the couch, picked up his beer, and drained it. "Go to bed," he said. Elena didn't move. "I said go to bed." She went. He got. In the bathroom, Elena locked the door and peeled off her scrubs with shaking hands. New bruises were already forming on her arm, dark purple shadows that would turn yellow in a few days. She stared at them in the mirror and felt nothing. That was the worst part, the nothing. She'd cried after the first time, after the second. By the 10th time, she'd stopped counting. Now she just existed, moving through the world like a ghost, waiting for something to change but not knowing what. The food bag sat on the counter where she'd set it down. Elena opened it carefully, half expecting Derek to burst through the door, but the apartment stayed quiet. Inside were containers of soup, bread, fruit, more than she could eat in a week. She hid them in the back of the closet under old shoes Derek never touched. Then she pulled out the business card. Just a number, no name, no company, nothing to explain who Luca Moretti was or why he'd stopped to help her. Elena traced the embossed digits with her thumb. She should throw it away. Should forget tonight ever happened. Should go back to surviving the way she'd been doing for months. But she didn't throw it away. She tucked it into the pocket of her uniform, the one Derek never checked, and lay down on the bed fully clothed. Sleep didn't come. Instead, she stared at the ceiling and replayed the moment on the platform. The catch, the steadying hands, the dark eyes that had seen too much and still chosen to help. "You're not getting on that train. I can tell you that if you pass out on the downtown 6 at this hour, you'll wake up in an ER. If you're lucky. Eventually you will." Elena closed her eyes. In the living room, Derek opened another beer. The bottle cap hit the floor with a small, metallic ping. She thought about the card in her pocket. She thought about food hidden in her closet. She thought about a stranger named Luca Moretti who had caught her before she fell. And for the first time in months, she thought about what might happen if she called that number. The next 2 weeks passed in slow motion. Elena went to work, came home, kept her head down. The bruises on her arm faded to yellow, then disappeared entirely. Derek stayed calm, almost normal. He even apologized, in his way, brought home flowers, made dinner, held her carefully like she might break. She knew what it meant, the calm before the next storm. At work, she moved through her shifts on autopilot. St. Catherine's pediatric ward was always understaffed, always chaotic, but Elena had learned to find comfort in the chaos. Kids didn't ask complicated questions. They hurt, or they didn't. They healed, or they didn't. Everything was simple. Except nothing was simple anymore. She'd taken the card out of her pocket a dozen times, put it back a dozen times. The number was burned into her memory now, but she couldn't make herself dial it. What would she even say? "Hi, remember me? The girl who nearly died on your shoes? I'm still dying, just slower now." On Thursday, 2 weeks exactly since the platform, Elena finished her shift and found herself taking the subway again. Same line, same platform, same time of night. She didn't know what she was looking for. The train came. The doors opened. Elena stood at the yellow line and didn't move. People pushed past her. The doors started to close. At the last second, she stepped back, letting the train leave without her. The platform emptied. Elena stood alone under the flickering fluorescent lights and pulled out her phone. The business card was still in her pocket. She didn't need to look at it anymore. Her thumb hovered over the dial button. "Just food," Luca had said. "Then you can leave." But it hadn't been just food. It had been the first time in months someone had looked at her and seen the truth. Not the careful mask. The actual truth. And maybe, that was worth a phone call. Elena took a breath. She dialed. The phone rang once, twice. On the third ring, someone picked up. "Hello, Elena." Her breath caught. "How did you—" "I've been waiting," Luca said. And somehow that didn't surprise her at all. "How did you know it was me?" Elena asked. Her voice came out smaller than she intended. "I only gave that number to one person." Luca's voice was steady through the phone, like he'd been sitting by it waiting for this exact call. "Where are you?" "The platform, same one." "Stay there." The line went dead. Elena stood under the flickering lights, phone still pressed to her ear, and wondered what the hell she'd just done. Around her, the station was nearly empty. Just a homeless man sleeping against the far wall and a kid with headphones who didn't look up from his phone. The next train wouldn't come for another 12 minutes. She could leave. Should leave. Derek expected her home 20 minutes ago. Her phone buzzed. "Where are you?" Elena stared at the text. Her thumb hovered over the keyboard, but no good lie came to mind. She'd used up all her excuses. Subway delay. Home soon. How soon, chap? 20 minutes. You have 15. She locked the phone and shoved it in her pocket. Her hands were shaking again. Not from hunger this time. She'd been eating the hidden food sparingly, carefully, making it last. From something else. Fear, maybe. Or the absence of it. Footsteps echoed on the stairs. Luca appeared at the bottom of the platform in the same charcoal suit, like he'd walked straight out of a different world. His eyes found her immediately, and something in his expression shifted. Relief, or maybe just confirmation. He crossed the platform in long strides. "You called." "I don't know why." "Yes, you do." Elena's jaw tightened. "You don't know me well enough to say that." "I know enough." He stopped a few feet away, giving her space. "You called because something changed." "Nothing changed." "Liar." The word hit harder than it should have. Elena looked away, staring at the yellow safety line like it held answers. "I shouldn't have called." "But you did." "I made a mistake." "Did you?" "Yes." "Then why are you still standing here?" Because she didn't have an answer for that. Because 15 minutes ago she'd been heading home to Derek, and now she was standing on a subway platform talking to a stranger who looked at her like she mattered. "I have to go," Elena said. "Where?" "Home. To him." "Stop saying it like that." "Like what?" "Like you know anything about my life." Luca's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes went hard. "I know he's the reason you haven't gained back any weight. I know he's the reason you're standing here at midnight instead of sleeping. I know he's the reason you look like you expect me to hit you every time I move too fast." Elena flinched. "You don't—" "I do." He took a step closer. "And I know you didn't call me to chat, so tell me what you need." "I don't need anything." "Everyone needs something." "Not from you." "Why not?" "Because I don't know you." "You know my name. You know I fed you when you were starving. You know I gave you my number and waited 2 weeks for you to use it." His voice dropped. "What else do you need to know?" "Everything," Elena wanted to say. "Who are you? Why do you care? What do you want from me?" Instead, she said, I have to go. He's waiting." "Let him wait." "I can't." "You can." "You don't understand." "Then help me understand." Elena's phone buzzed again. She didn't look at it. "He gets angry when I'm late," she said quietly. "How angry?" "Does it matter?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because I need to know if you're safe." The concern in his voice made her chest ache. Nobody had asked her that in so long she'd forgotten what it felt like. "I'm fine," she said automatically. "Stop lying." "I'm not—" "You are." Luca moved closer, slow and deliberate. "You've been lying so long you don't even notice anymore. But I notice. Every time you say you're fine, your left hand goes to your wrist, right where the bruise was." Elena looked down. Her hand was wrapped around her wrist, thumb pressed against the spot where Derek's fingers had been. She dropped it immediately. "That doesn't mean anything." "It means everything. You're reading too much into—" "Am I?" He was close enough now that she could see the fine lines around his eyes, the shadow of stubble on his jaw. "Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me he doesn't hurt you. Look me in the eye and tell me you're safe at home, and I'll walk away right now." Elena opened her mouth. The lie was right there, practiced and ready. But under Luca's steady gaze, it died on her tongue. "I can't," she whispered. "Can't what?" "I can't tell you that." Something shifted in Luca's expression. Not victory. Something quieter, sadder. "Come with me," he said. "Where?" "Somewhere safe." "I don't—" "Just for tonight, one night, that's all I'm asking." Elena shook her head. "I have to go home." "Why?" "Because if I don't—" She stopped, swallowed hard. If I don't, it'll be worse tomorrow. It's already worse. You don't know that. I do. Luca pulled out his phone and held it up. On the screen was a photo, medical records, patient intake forms. Her medical records. From 3 months ago. The night Derek had shoved her into the kitchen counter hard enough to crack 2 ribs. Elena's breath caught. How did you? I have resources. That's illegal. I don't care. You can't just. I already did. He lowered the phone. You went to St. Catherine's at 2 in the morning, told them you fell downstairs. The attending physician noted multiple contusions, defensive bruising on your forearms, and signs of prior trauma. She tried to get you to file a report. You refused. Elena's hands clenched into fists. You had no right. I had every right. This is my life. And you're wasting it. The words hit like a slap. Elena took a step back, anger flaring hot in her chest. You don't get to judge me. I'm not judging you. I'm trying to help you. I didn't ask for your help. You called my number. That was a mistake. Was it? Yes. Then hang up and go home. Luca's voice went flat. Walk away. Go back to him. Let him break another rib, or split your lip, or put his hands around your throat until you see stars. That's your choice. But don't stand here and tell me you're fine when we both know that's a lie. Elena's vision blurred. She blinked hard, refusing to cry. You don't understand. Then explain it to me. I can't just leave. Why not? Because... The words stuck in her throat. Because leaving meant admitting she'd made a mistake. Because leaving meant starting over with nothing. Because leaving meant Derek would find her, and it would be so much worse. Because it's not that simple. It is that simple. For you, maybe. Not for me. Why? Because I have nowhere else to go. The admission hung in the air between them. Luca's expression softened fractionally. Yes, you do, he said. I don't know you. You keep saying that. Because it's true. And I keep telling you it doesn't matter. He held out his hand. One night. No strings. No expectations. Just a safe place to sleep. Elena stared at his outstretched hand. She should walk away. Should get on the next train and go home and pretend this conversation never happened. But her phone was buzzing again. Derek's third text in 10 minutes. And she could already feel the shape of tomorrow. The accusations, the anger, the careful apologies that would last until the next time. Just tonight, she heard herself say. Just tonight. She took his hand. Might. The apartment wasn't what Elena expected. She'd pictured something sterile and expensive, all glass and steel and cold surfaces. Instead, Luca led her into a converted warehouse in Tribeca with exposed brick walls, high ceilings, and furniture that looked lived in rather than staged. Books lined the shelves. A half-empty glass of scotch sat on the coffee table next to a laptop. You live here alone? Elena asked. Yes. It's big for one person. I like space. She stood in the middle of the living room, suddenly aware of how out of place she looked. Wrinkled scrubs, tangled hair, the smell of hospital antiseptic still clinging to her skin. You can use the guest room, Luca said, gesturing toward the hallway. Bathroom's through there. I'll find you something to sleep in. I should call him. No. He'll worry. Let him. Luca, if you call him, he'll convince you to come back tonight. Is that what you want? No. God, no. But the guilt was already creeping in, familiar and suffocating. He'll be angry, Elena said. So let him be angry. You don't understand what he's like when he's angry. I understand enough. Luca disappeared down the hallway. Elena stood frozen in the living room, phone clutched in her hand. 4 missed calls now, 6 texts, each one angrier than the last. Where the fuck are you? Answer your phone if you're with someone, I swear to God. Her hands shook. She should call, should explain, should... Luca returned with a t-shirt and sweatpants. Here. Elena took them automatically. I need to tell him something. Tell him you're staying with a friend. I don't have friends. Then tell him you're working a double. He already called the hospital. Then turn off your phone. I can't. Elena. Luca's voice went firm. You can. You just don't want to because you're afraid of what happens when you do. You're damn right I'm afraid. Good. Fear means you're still thinking clearly. He took the phone from her hand before she could protest and powered it off. One night, that's all. Tomorrow you can call him. Tonight you sleep. Elena wanted to argue, but exhaustion was pulling at her like a riptide. When was the last time she'd slept through the night? Weeks, maybe longer. The guest room, Luca said again, pointing. She went. Mat. The shower was heaven. Hot water, actual water pressure, soap that didn't smell like hospital industrial cleaner. Elena stood under the spray until her skin turned pink, washing away 2 weeks of grime and fear and pretending. When she finally stepped out, she caught sight of herself in the mirror. The bruises on her arm had faded, but others had taken their place. A yellow shadow across her ribs from last Tuesday when she dropped a glass and Derek had... She looked away. Luca's clothes were too big on her. The t-shirt hung to her knees and the sweatpants required rolling 3 times to stay up. She looked like a kid playing dress-up. The guest room was simple. Clean sheets, soft pillows, a window overlooking the street. Elena sat on the edge of the bed and stared at her phone, still powered off. Derek was losing his mind right now. She knew him well enough to map it out. The initial anger, the spiral into paranoia, the drinking, the rage. By tomorrow he'd have convinced himself she was cheating. It didn't matter that she'd given him no reason. It never mattered. A knock on the door made her jump. "It's me," Luca said through the wood. "Come in." He entered carrying a tray. Soup, bread, tea. "You should eat something." "I'm not hungry." "Eat anyway." He set the tray on the nightstand and turned to leave, but Elena's voice stopped him. "Why are you doing this?" Luca paused in the doorway. "Doing what?" "Helping me. You don't even know me." "I know enough." That's not an answer. He was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice had gone distant. "My mother spent 15 years with a man who hit her, broke her arm twice, gave her a concussion that left her vision permanently damaged in one eye. I was 10 when she finally left him." Elena's breath caught. "I remember asking her why she stayed so long," Luca continued. "She said because nobody ever helped her. Nobody ever looked at her bruises and asked if she was okay. Nobody ever offered her a way out." He turned to face Elena. "So when I see someone who needs help, I help. It's that simple." "It's not simple." "It is for me." "Because you feel guilty." "Because I remember what it was like to be helpless." The honesty in his voice made Elena's chest ache. She picked up the soup and took a sip. It was good. Homemade, not canned. "Did you make this?" she asked. "Yes." "You cook?" "When I have time." "What do you do?" "Import-export." "That's vague." "It's intentional." Elena set the soup down. "Are you a criminal?" "Depends on your definition." "That's not reassuring." "I didn't say it would be." Luca leaned against the doorframe. "I've done things I'm not proud of. Made choices most people wouldn't agree with, but I've never hurt someone who didn't deserve it." "What does that mean?" "It means I protect the people who need protecting, by whatever means necessary." "That sounds like vigilante talk." "Call it what you want." Elena should have been scared, should have grabbed her phone and run. Instead, she felt something else entirely. Relief. Because Luca wasn't pretending to be someone he wasn't hiding behind polite lies or careful words. He was dangerous, and he knew it, and he wasn't apologizing. "Get some sleep," Luca said. "We'll talk more in the morning." He left, pulling the door closed behind him. Elena ate the soup slowly, then climbed into bed. The sheets were soft and clean, and they smelled like lavender. Outside, the city hummed with its usual chaos, but in here, everything was quiet. For the first time in months, Elena closed her eyes and didn't dream about fists or broken glass or the sound of Derek's voice rising in the dark. She just slept. Morning came too fast. Elena woke to sunlight streaming through the window and the smell of coffee. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then reality crashed back. The phone call, the apartment, Luca's steady presence. Derek. Her stomach dropped. She'd been gone all night. He'd have torn the apartment apart by now, convinced she was cheating or dead or both. She needed to call him, needed to fix this before it got worse. She found her phone on the nightstand, still powered off. Her finger hovered over the button. Don't. She turned. Luca stood in the doorway holding 2 mugs of coffee. He was wearing different clothes, dark jeans, a navy sweater, but his expression was the same, controlled, watchful. I have to, Elena said. Why? Because he's probably called the police by now. Let him. Luca, you left for one night. That's not a crime. He won't see it that way. I don't care how he sees it. Luca crossed the room and set one of the mugs on the nightstand. Drink your coffee, then we'll talk. Elena picked up the mug but didn't drink. I can't stay here. I know. I have to go back eventually. Do you? Yes. Why? Because... She stopped. Because why? Because her stuff was there? Because Derek would be angry? Because leaving felt like admitting she'd wasted 2 years of her life on someone who didn't love her? All of the above. It's complicated, she said finally. It's not. Easy for you to say. You're right, it is easy for me to say. Because I'm not the one making excuses. Luca sat down in the chair by the window. You want to know what's complicated? Figuring out how to hide from someone who knows where you work. Finding a new place to live with no money and no references. Starting over from nothing. Those things are complicated. Leaving isn't. You make it sound so simple. Because it is. You walk out. You don't go back. That's leaving. And then what? Then you figure out the rest. Elena set the coffee down untouched. I don't have anywhere to go. You have here. For how long? A week? A month? You can't just let some random woman live in your apartment. Watch me. That's not... I have 3 bedrooms. I use 1. You can have another. Stay as long as you need. Why would you do that? Because you need help. That's not a reason. It's the only reason that matters. Elena shook her head. You don't know me. You don't owe me anything. I know enough. And I don't do things because I owe people. I do things because they need doing. That's insane? Luca smiled, but there was no humor in it. Probably. But here we are. They sat in silence. Outside, the city was waking up. Car horns, distant sirens, the low rumble of garbage trucks. Normal sounds. Safe sounds. I need to think, Elena said. Take all the time you need. What if Derek comes looking for me? Let him try. You don't know what he's capable of. And he doesn't know what I'm capable of. Luca's voice went cold. Trust me when I say, if he shows up here, he'll regret it. The certainty in his tone should have scared her. Instead, it felt like armor. I should at least text him, Elena said. Let him know I'm alive. If that's what you want. She powered on her phone. Immediately it started buzzing. 23 missed calls, 46 text messages. She didn't read them, just typed out a quick message. I'm fine. Staying with a friend. Need some space. The response came in seconds. What friend you don't have? Friends, where the fuck are you? Elena's hands shook. She turned the phone face down on the bed. He's going to find me, she said quietly. Not if you don't want him to. He knows where I work. Then don't go back there. I can't just quit my job. Why not? Because I need money. Because I have bills. Because I'll handle it, Elena laughed, sharp and bitter. You'll handle it, just like that. Yes. You can't just throw money at my problems. Watch me. This is insane. You keep saying that. Because it is. Elena stood up, pacing the small room. I don't know you. You don't know me. And you're offering to let me live here rent-free while you... What? Pay my bills? Keep me safe from my ex-boyfriend? This isn't how the real world works. The real world, Luca said carefully, is whatever we make it. That's not... Elena. He stood, closing the distance between them. I'm going to be very clear with you. I don't make offers I can't keep. If I say you can stay here, you can stay here. If I say I'll keep you safe, I will. If I say Derek Hale will never touch you again, he won't. Do you understand? How can you promise that? Because I have resources, connections, people who owe me favors. His expression darkened. And because I'm very good at making problems disappear. The threat was implicit. Elena should have been terrified. Instead, she felt something shift inside her. a loosening of the fear that had been her constant companion for months. "What do you want from me?" she asked. "Nothing. Everyone wants something." "Not everyone." "You're lying." "I'm not." Luca held her gaze. "I want you to be safe. That's all." "Why?" "Because someone should." The simplicity of it broke something in Elena's chest. She sank back down on the bed, suddenly exhausted. "I don't know how to do this," she whispered. "Do what?" "Accept help. Trust someone. Believe that this isn't going to end with me right back where I started." "Then don't believe it. Just stay anyway." "For how long?" "As long as you need." Elena looked at her phone, still face down on the bed. Derek was probably losing his mind. Tomorrow, he'd show up at the hospital. The day after that, he'd file a missing person report. He'd make her life hell until she came back. Unless she didn't go back. Unless she chose this instead. This strange apartment, this dangerous man, this chance at something different. "1 week," she said. 1 week. Then I'll decide." "Fair enough." Elena picked up the coffee and took a sip. It was good. Strong and black, the way she liked it. "Thank you," she said quietly. Luca nodded and left her alone. The week passed in a strange blur. Elena called out sick from work, using up vacation days she'd been hoarding. She didn't answer Derek's calls, didn't read his texts, just existed in Luca's apartment like a ghost, learning the rhythms of his life. He left early most mornings, gone before she woke up. Returned late, often past midnight, smelling like cigarette smoke and expensive cologne. He never explained where he went or what he did. She never asked. They existed in careful orbit around each other, sharing meals, making small talk, maintaining a polite distance that felt both safe and suffocating. On the 4th day, Derek showed up at the hospital. Elena's supervisor called her personally. "There's a man here asking for you. Says he's your boyfriend. Security's with him, but he's getting aggressive." Elena's blood ran cold. "Don't tell him anything. He says you're in danger, that you've been kidnapped." "I haven't been kidnapped. I left." "Elena, please, just don't tell him where I am." There was a pause. "Are you safe?" "Yes." "Do you need help?" "I have help." Another pause. "Okay, I'll handle it, but you should file a police report." "I will." She wouldn't. Police meant questions. Questions meant explaining. Explaining meant admitting she'd stayed with Derek for 2 years while he systematically destroyed her. When Luca came home that night, Elena was sitting in the dark. "He went to the hospital," she said without preamble. Luca set down his keys. "I know." "How do you know?" "I have someone watching him." Elena's head snapped up. "You what?" "I needed to know if he was a threat." "You're having him followed?" "Yes. That's necessary." "It's illegal." "I don't care." Elena stood, anger flaring. "You can't just—" "I can. I did. And I'm not apologizing for it." Luca's voice was calm, too calm. "Derek Hale is dangerous. He's escalating. And I need to know where he is and what he's doing so I can keep you safe." "I didn't ask you to do that. You didn't have to. This is my life." "And you're barely living it." Luca crossed the room. "He showed up at your workplace, made a scene, told your supervisor you'd been kidnapped. That's not someone who's going to let this go. That's someone who's going to keep pushing until he finds you." "So what do you want me to do? Hide forever?" "I want you to fight back." "How?" "File for a restraining order." Elena laughed, sharp and bitter. "A piece of paper isn't going to stop him. It's a start. It's useless. It's documentation, evidence, something you can use in court if— If what? If he kills me? Great. At least there'll be a paper trail." "Elena, no." She was shaking now, 2 years of rage finally breaking through. "You don't get it. He doesn't care about restraining orders or police reports or any of that legal bullshit. He cares about control. And the minute I walk into a courthouse and file paperwork, he'll know I'm serious about leaving, and that's when he'll really lose it. Then let him lose it. Easy for you to say. You're right. It is easy for me to say. Because I'm not afraid of him. Luca's voice went hard. But you are. And as long as you're afraid, he wins. I'm not afraid. I'm realistic. You're terrified. Damn right I am. Because I know what he's capable of. So do I. Luca pulled out his phone and showed her the screen. Security footage. Derek pacing outside St. Catherine's, hands clenched into fists, face twisted with rage. He spent 4 hours outside your hospital today. Waiting. Watching. My guy had to physically intervene twice to keep him from forcing his way inside. Elena's stomach turned. I didn't know. Because I didn't want you to know. But now you need to know. He's not going to stop. And eventually he's going to find you. Then maybe I should just go back. No, it would be easier. It would be suicide. You're being dramatic. Am I? Luca tapped his phone. More footage appeared. Derek's apartment. The interior was trashed. Furniture overturned. Holes punched in the walls. Broken glass everywhere. This is what he did when you didn't come home. Imagine what he'll do when you go back. Elena couldn't breathe. The apartment looked like a war zone. He's escalating, Luca said quietly. And men like him don't de-escalate. They push until something breaks, usually the person they're trying to control. So what do I do? You fight. You file the restraining order. You build a case. And when he violates it, because he will violate it, you have him arrested. And if that doesn't work, then I handle it. What does that mean? Luca's expression went carefully blank. It means Derek Hale will stop being a problem. The implication hung between them. Elena should have been horrified, should have told him to stop, that violence wasn't the answer, that there were legal ways to handle this. But she didn't. Because part of her, the part that was tired of being afraid, tired of running, tired of surviving, wanted exactly that. I'll file the restraining order, she said. Good. But I need you to promise me something. What? That you won't do anything unless I ask you to. Luca was quiet for a long moment. I can't promise that. Why not? Because if he puts his hands on you again, I'm not going to wait for permission. Luca, non-negotiable. His voice was steel. You can file all the paperwork you want. You can try the legal route. But if Derek touches you, looks at you wrong, even thinks about hurting you, I'm done playing nice. Elena should have argued, should have insisted she could handle this herself. But the truth was she couldn't, not alone. Okay, she whispered. Okay. They filed the restraining order the next morning. The courthouse was exactly what Elena expected. Fluorescent lights, uncomfortable chairs, the pervasive smell of old coffee and human misery. She sat across from a clerk who looked 17 and bored, filling out forms with shaking hands while Luca stood behind her like a sentinel. How long has the abuse been going on? The clerk asked. 2 years? Has he ever hit you? Yes. How many times? Elena's throat tightened. I don't know. I stopped counting. The clerk's expression didn't change, just checked a box and moved to the next question. When it was done, Elena walked out of the courthouse with a piece of paper that said Derek Hale had to stay 500 feet away from her at all times. He's going to violate it, she said. I know. Probably today. Let him. Luca guided her toward the car. Then we have grounds for arrest. That's not how it works. He'll get a warning, maybe a fine. Then he'll do it again. Not if I have anything to say about it. Elena stopped walking. What are you planning? Nothing you need to worry about. Luca, trust me. And the terrifying thing was, she did. They got in the car. Luca's driver pulled away from the curb. Elena stared out the window, watching the city blur past, and tried to imagine a future where Derek wasn't a constant threat. She couldn't. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You think a piece of paper is going to stop me? Her breath caught. He knows. Luca leaned over, read the text. His jaw tightened. Block the number. He'll just use another one. Then block that one too. Another text came through. I know where you are. He's bluffing, Luca said. I'm coming for you, Luca. He doesn't know where you are. My apartment isn't listed in my name. There's no trail leading back to me. Then how? Icky. You can't hide forever. Elena's hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold the phone. Luca took it from her, powered it off, and slipped it into his pocket. New phone tomorrow, he said. New number. No one gets it except me and your job. He'll find another way. Let him try. But Elena could already feel it. The walls closing in, the inevitable confrontation looming. Derek wasn't going to stop. A restraining order wouldn't stop him. A new phone number wouldn't stop him. Nothing would stop him except... I need to talk to him, Elena said suddenly. No. If I explain... No. Luca, absolutely not. You're not going anywhere near him. He won't stop until I do. He won't stop, period. That's who he is. You don't know that. I do. Luca's voice was absolute. Men like Derek don't let go. They don't accept rejection. They don't move on. They escalate until someone stops them. Then let me try to... No. It's my choice. And I'm making it for you. Elena's temper flared. You can't do that. Watch me. You're not my keeper. Someone needs to be. That's not... The car lurched to a stop. Elena looked up. They were back at Luca's building. The driver was already out, opening the door. Inside, Luca said. Now. Don't order me around. I'm not ordering. I'm insisting. That's the same thing. Elena, please. The please did it. Elena got out of the car and walked into the building, Luca right behind her. The elevator ride was silent, tense. When they reached the apartment, Luca went straight to the windows and closed all the blinds. You're being paranoid, Elena said. I'm being careful. He doesn't even know where I am. Yet. What does that mean? It means Derek is the kind of man who doesn't stop looking. And eventually, a loud crash echoed from the street below. Elena jumped. Luca moved to the window, peering through a crack in the blinds. His expression went dark. What is it? Elena asked. Stay here. Luca, stay. Here. He left the apartment. Elena stood frozen in the living room, heart hammering. She moved to the window, looked down at the street. Derek's car was parked across the street. Driver's side door open. He was standing on the sidewalk, phone pressed to his ear, scanning the building. He'd found her. Elena's breath stopped. Derek stood on the sidewalk 3 stories below, head tilted back, scanning every window like a predator that had finally cornered its prey. His jaw was clenched so tight she could see the muscle jumping even from this distance. The phone in his hand looked small, fragile, like he might crush it any second. She stepped back from the window, pulse hammering in her throat. This wasn't possible. Luca said the apartment wasn't in his name, said there was no trail, said Derek couldn't find her. But here he was. The apartment door slammed open. Luca strode in, face carved from stone, and went straight to the window. He looked down once, expression darkening, then yanked the blinds fully closed. Pack your things, he said. What? Now, Elena. We're leaving. How did he... I don't know. Luca was already moving through the apartment, pulling items from drawers, his movements sharp and controlled. But we're not staying to find out. Maybe he's guessing. Maybe he doesn't actually know I'm here. He's parked across the street from my building. Luca's voice was flat. That's not a guess. Elena's hands went numb. Then someone told him. No one knows you're here except my driver, and he's been with me for 15 years. Then how? A knock on the door cut her off. 3 sharp raps. They both froze. Mr. Moretti? A woman's voice muffled through the wood. Building management. We need to speak with you about a noise complaint. Luca's eyes narrowed. He moved to the door, checked the peephole, then looked back at Elena and shook his head once. Not management. 1 moment, he called out. It's urgent, sir. I said 1 moment. He grabbed Elena's wrist and pulled her toward the back of the apartment, down the hallway past the bedrooms to a door she'd never noticed before. It opened onto a service stairwell, concrete and metal, the kind built for emergencies. Go down to the basement, Luca said quietly. There's a parking garage. My driver is already there. Black Mercedes, license plate ending in 447. Get in and lock the doors. What about you? I'm handling this. Luca said, go. Another knock, louder this time. Mr. Moretti, I'm going to need you to open the door. Elena's stomach twisted. That's not building management. I know. Then who? Someone Derek sent, or someone he paid. Luca's jaw tightened. Either way, we're out of time. He pushed her toward the stairs. Elena grabbed his arm. Come with me. I will. After I deal with this. Deal with it how? However I need to. The implication was clear. Elena shook her head. You can't just watch me. Luca. Elena. He gripped her shoulders, forced her to look at him. I need you to trust me. Can you do that? She wanted to say no, wanted to demand answers, explanations, a plan that didn't involve him staying behind to confront whoever was on the other side of that door. But his eyes were steady and certain, and she realized with a jolt that this was what he did. This was the life he lived when she wasn't looking. The one that involved resources and connections and making problems disappear. Okay, she whispered. Good, now go. He released her, and Elena ran. The service stairwell was dimly lit and smelled like concrete dust and old paint. Elena's footsteps echoed as she descended, taking the stairs two at a time, one hand on the railing to keep from stumbling. Her mind raced. Derek had found her. Somehow, impossibly, he'd tracked her to Luca's apartment, which meant either Luca had been wrong about the security of his building or someone had given Derek the information. But who? She hit the basement level and shoved through the door into the parking garage. The Mercedes was right where Luca said it would be, idling near the exit ramp. Elena ran toward it, yanked open the back door, and threw herself inside. The driver turned around. Miss Voss, lock the doors. He hit the button. All four locks engaged with a solid thunk. Elena pressed herself into the seat, trying to catch her breath. Through the tinted windows, she could see the garage entrance, the street beyond. No sign of Derek. No sign of anyone. Where's Mr. Moretti? The driver asked. Upstairs, dealing with... She stopped. How did you explain this? There was someone at the door. The driver's expression didn't change. He'll handle it. How do you know? Because he always does. Elena wanted to ask what that meant, but her phone buzzed. Except her phone was off. She'd watched Luca power it down. The buzzing came again. She dug through her pockets and found a second phone. Small, black, one she'd never seen before. It must have been in the jacket Luca had given her that morning. The screen showed a single text message from a number she didn't recognize. Get out of the car. Now. Elena's blood went cold. Drive. Ma'am? Drive, right now. The driver shifted into gear, but before he could accelerate, three men appeared at the garage entrance. They moved in formation, spreading out to block the exit. One of them held up a hand. The driver stopped the car. Go around them, Elena said. I can't. I don't care. Go. But it was too late. One of the men approached the driver's side window and knocked. The driver lowered it a crack. Step out of the vehicle, the man said. He was mid-40s, broad-shouldered, with the kind of face that suggested ex-military or private security. This is private property, the driver said calmly. Step out of the vehicle or we'll remove you. Elena's hands clenched. Who are you? The man's eyes flicked to her through the window. Miss Voss, Mr. Hale would like to speak with you. Tell Mr. Hale to go to hell. I'm afraid that's not an option. I have a restraining order. I'm aware. Mr. Hale is waiting outside the 500-foot perimeter. He just wants to talk. No. Miss Voss, I said no. The man sighed and pulled something from his jacket. Not a gun. A phone. He held it up to the window. On the screen was a video feed. Live footage of Luca's apartment. Two men had him pressed against the wall, hands behind his back. He wasn't struggling, wasn't fighting, just standing there with that same controlled expression. Elena's heart stopped. What did you do to him? Nothing yet. Whether that changes depends on you. If you hurt him, then come talk to Mr. Hale. 5 minutes, that's all he's asking. And if I don't? The man tapped the phone screen. On the feed, one of the men holding Luca pulled out a weapon. Not a gun. Something else. A baton, maybe, or... 5 minutes, the man repeated. Your choice. Elena stared at the screen. Luca's eyes were closed. His chest rose and fell evenly, like he was conserving energy. Waiting. She thought about the restraining order, about the courthouse clerk who'd barely looked up while processing her paperwork, about the way Luca had promised Derek would never touch her again. None of it mattered now. "Let me out," Elena said to the driver. "Miss Voss, let me out." The driver hesitated, then unlocked the doors. Elena stepped out of the Mercedes and into the worst decision of her life. Derek was waiting half a block away, leaning against his car with his arms crossed. He'd lost weight. His face was gaunt, shadows under his eyes like he hadn't slept in days. When he saw Elena approaching, something in his expression cracked open. Relief and rage, and something else she couldn't name. "There you are," he said. Elena stopped 10 feet away. The ex-military guy and his two companions formed a loose perimeter around them, close enough to intervene, but far enough to give the illusion of privacy. "You have 5 minutes," Elena said. "Then I'm leaving." "You're not leaving." "Yes, I am. We need to talk." "We have nothing to talk about." Derek pushed off the car. "You filed a restraining order because you wouldn't leave me alone. I was worried about you. You were controlling me." "I was protecting you. From what? From you?" His jaw tightened. "You don't understand what you've done. I left. That's what I did. You ran away with some man you don't even know. I know him better than I know you." "Bullshit." Derek took a step closer. Elena held her ground. "You've known him what, 2 weeks? 3? And suddenly he's your savior? Your protector? Elena, use your brain. What do you actually know about Luca Moretti?" "I know he's never hit me." The words landed like a slap. Derek flinched. "I never meant to." "You did. Every time. I was stressed. Work was. I don't care about your excuses. They're not excuses, they're reasons. There is no reason that makes what you did okay." Derek's hands clenched into fists. "You're right. I screwed up. I know that. But I'm trying to fix it. By tracking me down? By sending men to threaten someone I care about? I didn't threaten anyone. I hired private security to make sure you were safe." "From who?" "From him." Derek's voice rose. "You don't know anything about Luca Moretti, about what he does, who he works for." "I know enough." "Do you? Did he tell you he's under federal investigation? That his import-export business is a front for moving illegal weapons? That he's connected to 3 different organized crime families in New York?" Elena's breath caught. "You're lying." "I wish I was." Derek pulled out his phone, scrolled to something, held it up. A document, federal letterhead, official stamps, an investigation report with Luca's name highlighted in yellow. Elena stared at the screen. The words blurred together, but certain phrases jumped out. Illegal arms trafficking, money laundering, suspected organized crime connections. "Where did you get this?" she asked. "I have a friend at the FBI. Called in a favor." Derek lowered the phone. "Elena, this man is dangerous. Whatever he told you, whatever promises he made, they're lies. He's using you." "For what?" "I don't know, but men like that don't help people out of kindness. They help because they want something." Elena shook her head, but the doubt was already creeping in. Luca had been vague about his work from the beginning, had refused to explain his resources or connections, had made promises about keeping her safe that seemed impossible unless he really was connected to something bigger and darker than she'd imagined. "Even if that's true," Elena said slowly, "it doesn't change what you did to me." "I know, and I'm sorry. I'm so damn sorry." Derek's voice cracked. "But come home. Please. Let me make this right." "I can't." "Why not?" "Because I don't trust you." "Then don't trust me. Just come home long enough to pack your things properly. Figure out what you really want. I won't stop you. I swear I won't stop you." Elena wanted to believe him. The desperate part of her that still remembered the man Derek had been 2 years ago, before the anger, before the violence, before everything broke, wanted to believe he could change, but the rest of her knew better. "Let Luca go," she said. "I will, after you hear me out." "I am hearing you out." "Not here. Not like this." Derek gestured to the building behind her. Come back to the apartment, just for an hour. We'll talk like adults. Then you can make whatever decision you want. No. Elena, I said no. Derek's expression hardened. Then I can't promise those men upstairs won't hurt your boyfriend. He's not my boyfriend. Whatever he is, you care about him enough to get in that car. Enough to put yourself at risk. Derek moved closer. 1 hour. That's all I'm asking. Then everyone walks away. Elena's mind raced. She could call the police, but that would take time, and Luca didn't have time. She could try to run, but Derek's security guys would stop her before she made it 10 feet. Or she could go with Derek. Buy time. Figure out what to do next. 1 hour, she said. 1 hour. And you let Luca go. Right now. Derek pulled out his phone, sent a text. 30 seconds later, Elena's burner phone buzzed. A new video feed. The men in Luca's apartment backing away, hands up. Luca straightening his jacket, face unreadable. See, Derek said. I'm a man of my word. Elena didn't believe that for a second, but she got in Derek's car anyway. The apartment looked exactly how she'd left it 3 weeks ago. Same couch, same TV, same dishes in the sink she'd been too exhausted to wash. But everything felt different now, smaller, like the walls had moved closer while she was gone. Derek locked the door behind them. Don't do that, Elena said. It's habit. Unlock it. He did. Better? No. She stayed near the door, every muscle tensed. Derek moved into the kitchen, opened the fridge, pulled out 2 beers. He offered one to Elena. I don't want to drink. When did you start drinking beer anyway? You always hated beer. People change. Not that much, not that fast. Derek set both bottles on the counter. So what's the real story? Who is Luca Moretti to you? Someone who helped me when I needed it. That's not an answer. It's the only answer you're getting. Derek's jaw worked. Are you sleeping with him? That's none of your business. It is if you're still living in my apartment. I'm not living here. I'm visiting under duress. Elena, you threatened him. You forced me here. This isn't a conversation. It's a hostage situation. That's dramatic. Is it? Derek slammed his hand on the counter. Elena jumped. The sound echoed through the apartment, sharp and final. I'm trying, Derek said through clenched teeth. I'm really trying to be calm about this. To talk to you like an adult. But you're making it very difficult. Because you're pretending this is normal. It's not normal. Nothing about this situation is normal. You're right. Normal would be you accepting that I left. Accepting that we're done. Instead, you stalked me, found out where I was staying, and used violence to force me back here. I didn't use violence. You threatened Luca. I asked my security team to detain him temporarily. That's the same thing. It's not. Elena laughed, bitter and sharp. You know what? This is pointless. I'm leaving. She turned toward the door, but Derek moved faster, stepping between her and the exit. We're not done talking. Yes, we are. Elena, get out of my way. Not until you listen to me. I've been listening for 2 years. I'm done. You're not done. You're scared. There's a difference. I'm not scared of you anymore. Then why are your hands shaking? She looked down. He was right. Her hands were trembling, fingers curled into fists to hide it. Move, she said quietly. No. Derek, I love you. The words came out desperate, raw. I know I screwed up. I know I hurt you, but I love you, and I'm not letting you throw away 2 years because some criminal offered you a place to crash. He's not. He is. I showed you the report, federal investigation, arms trafficking, money laundering. That's who you're defending. I don't care what he does. You should care, because when the FBI finally builds their case and arrests him, you'll be implicated too. Accessory after the fact. Maybe worse. Elena's stomach dropped. That's not. It is. You think they'll believe you just happened to be staying with a suspected arms dealer? That you had no idea what he was involved in? Derek shook his head. You'll go down with him, lose your nursing license, maybe serve time. You're making that up. I'm not. Ask any lawyer. Association is enough. Elena's thoughts spiraled. Could that be true? Could simply living in Luca's apartment make her legally culpable for whatever he was doing? She didn't know. and Derek could see the doubt on her face. "I'm trying to protect you," he said softer now. "From him, from yourself, from whatever mistake you think you're making. The only mistake I made was coming back here. You came back because you know I'm right. I came back because you forced me. No one forced you. You chose to get in my car. You chose to come upstairs. You could have called the police any time." He was right. She could have. Should have. What? Why hadn't she? "I want to leave," Elena said. "In a few minutes. Now." "Elena, now, Derek, or I'm calling the police and telling them you're violating the restraining order." His expression shifted. The careful control slipped, and underneath it was the same rage she'd seen 100 times before. "You really want to do this the hard way?" he asked. "What's the hard way?" "The way where I stop being nice." Elena's pulse kicked up. There it is. There what is? The real you. Took longer than usual, but it always comes out eventually. Derek's hands flexed. "I'm trying not to lose my temper." "Try harder. You're pushing me." "I'm leaving. That's not pushing. That's existing." She moved toward the door. Derek grabbed her arm. Elena reacted on instinct. She swung her free hand up, connected with his jaw. Not hard enough to do real damage, but enough to make him let go. They both froze. Derek touched his face, fingers coming away clean but already reddening where she'd hit him. His eyes went dark. "You hit me," he said quietly. "You grabbed me. You hit me. After you... I was trying to stop you from leaving, and you hit me." The absurdity of it would have been funny if Elena wasn't suddenly terrified, because Derek's voice had gone very soft, very controlled. That was always worse than yelling. "I'm sorry," she said quickly. "I didn't mean..." "Yes, you did. Derek, you meant it. You wanted to hurt me. I wanted you to let go. There are other ways to make someone let go." "Like what? Asking nicely? That's never worked before." Derek's smile was terrible. "You've changed. Good. Not good. Different. Harder. Like you're turning into someone I don't recognize." "Maybe that's the point. Or maybe Luca Moretti is making you into something you're not. He's helping me remember who I am, who you were, before me." Derek stepped closer. "The girl who had opinions, who fought back, who didn't know when to quit." "I still don't know when to quit." "Then we have that in common." He moved fast. 1 second he was 3 feet away, the next his hands were on her shoulders, shoving her backward into the wall. Elena's head cracked against the plaster. Stars burst across her vision. "Stop," she gasped. "You started this." "I didn't." "You hit me first." His hands moved from her shoulders to her throat, not squeezing, not yet. Just resting there. A promise. Elena couldn't breathe. This was it. The moment she'd been running from for months. The moment when Derek's control finally snapped and he stopped pulling his punches. "I could hurt you right now," he said softly. "Really hurt you. And no one would stop me. Luca would. Luca's not here. It's just us." Elena's vision blurred. From tears or lack of oxygen, she couldn't tell. "Please," she whispered. "Please what?" "Let me go." "Why should I?" "Because I'm asking." "That's not enough." "Then what do you want?" Derek's grip tightened fractionally. "I want you to stay. I want you to admit you made a mistake. I want you to apologize for leaving and promise it won't happen again." "I can't promise that." "Then I can't promise I'll let you go." The apartment was very quiet. Through the walls, Elena could hear the neighbor's TV, someone laughing on a sitcom. Normal sounds, safe sounds. No one was coming to help her. She thought about Luca, about the way he'd looked at her that first night on the platform, like she mattered, like she was worth saving. She thought about the food hidden in her closet, the business card she'd kept, the phone call that had changed everything. She thought about the federal investigation report and Derek's warnings and all the reasons why trusting Luca Moretti was probably the dumbest decision she'd ever made. And then she thought about surviving. "Okay," Elena whispered. "Okay, what?" "I'll stay." Derek's eyes narrowed. "You're lying." "I'm not." "Say it again, like you mean it." "I'll stay. I won't go back to Luca's. I'll give this another chance." The pressure on her throat eased. Derek studied her face, searching for deception. Elena kept her expression neutral, beaten, resigned. It was easier than she expected. She'd had 2 years of practice. Good, Derek said finally. He released her completely, stepped back. See? That wasn't so hard. Elena rubbed her throat. Can I use the bathroom? Why? Because I need to. You're not running. Where would I run? You're between me and the door. Derek considered this. 5 minutes. Then we finish talking. Okay? She walked to the bathroom on shaking legs, locked the door, and stared at herself in the mirror. Red marks circled her throat. They'd be bruises by tomorrow. Her phone, the burner Luca had hidden in her jacket, was still in her pocket. She pulled it out, hands trembling so badly she almost dropped it. One text from an unknown number. Where are you? Elena typed back quickly. Derek's apartment, Queens. He's not letting me leave. The response came in seconds. Address. She sent it. Stay calm. I'm coming. Elena stared at the message. She should tell Luca not to come, should warn him that Derek had men watching, that this was obviously a trap, that coming here would only make everything worse. But she didn't, because she was done surviving alone. She deleted the messages, flushed the toilet for sound, and went back to face Derek. He was waiting in the living room with a fresh beer and an expression that suggested he'd made some kind of decision while she was gone. Sit, he said, gesturing to the couch. Elena sat. Derek settled into the chair across from her, elbows on his knees, studying her like a problem he needed to solve. I've been thinking, he said. About what? About us. About what went wrong. Elena said nothing. I think the issue is you stopped trying, Derek continued. Stopped putting in effort. Stopped caring about making this work. That's not... Let me finish. His voice went hard. You started pulling away months ago, coming home late, making excuses, acting like you'd rather be anywhere but here. Because I was afraid. Of what? Of you. That's ridiculous. Is it? You just had your hands around my throat. Derek waved this away like it was nothing. You provoked me. I tried to leave. Same thing. It's not. In my book it is. He drained half the beer. The point is you stop trying, and when you stop trying, relationships fall apart. Elena's hands clenched in her lap. You're blaming me. I'm assigning responsibility where it belongs. You're the one who hit me. After you pulled away. After you made me feel like I was losing you. So it's my fault you were violent. I'm saying there were contributing factors. Elena laughed, sharp and brittle. You're unbelievable. I'm being honest. You're rewriting history. I'm providing context. The apartment door exploded inward. Wood splintered. The lock mechanism tore free from the frame. The door slammed against the wall hard enough to crack the plaster. Luca stepped through, flanked by 2 men Elena had never seen before. All 3 were dressed in dark clothes, faces cold, and Luca had a gun in his hand. Derek shot to his feet. What the? Sit down, Luca said quietly. This is my apartment. I said sit down. The gun didn't waver. Derek sat. Luca's eyes found Elena on the couch. His gaze traveled from her face to her throat, where the red marks were already darkening into bruises. Something in his expression went absolutely still. Elena, he said. Come here. She stood on shaking legs and crossed to him. Luca's free hand came up, fingers gentle as they tilted her chin, examining the bruises. He did this, Luca said. Not a question. Elena nodded. Luca looked at Derek. You violated the restraining order. She came willingly. You coerced her with threats. I wanted to talk. You put your hands on her. Derek's jaw tightened. She's my girlfriend. Ex-girlfriend, Elena said quietly. We were working things out. You were hurting her. Luca's voice was very calm, very controlled, the kind of calm that preceded violence. That ends now. You can't just walk into my home. I just did. I'll call the police. Go ahead. Luca gestured to Derek's phone on the coffee table. Call them. Explain how you violated a restraining order, coerced your ex-girlfriend into coming here, then assaulted her. I'm sure they'll be very sympathetic. Derek's hands clenched. Get out of my apartment. Not without Elena. She's staying. No, Elena said. I'm not. Derek's eyes snapped to her. We had a deal. Deals made under duress don't count. You promised. I lied. The admission hung in the air. Derek's face went through several emotions at once. Shock, rage, betrayal. He started to stand, but one of Luca's men stepped forward, hand on his own weapon. Derek sat back down. Elena, he said, voice shaking, don't do this. I already did. If you walk out that door with him, we're done. You understand that? Completely done. Good. I mean it. You won't get another chance. I don't want another chance. You'll regret this. The only thing I regret is not leaving sooner. Derek's control finally shattered. You ungrateful bitch! After everything I did for you! Luca moved. 1 second he was standing next to Elena. The next he was across the room with the gun pressed against Derek's temple. Finish that sentence, Luca said softly. Please. Derek's mouth snapped shut. That's what I thought. Luca stepped back, but the gun stayed trained on Derek. Here's what's going to happen. Elena is leaving. You're going to stay in this apartment. You're not going to follow her. You're not going to call her. You're not going to show up at her workplace. You're not going to violate the restraining order again. And if I do? Derek's voice was defiant, but his eyes showed fear. Then I stop being nice. You're threatening me. I'm making a promise. I could have you arrested for this. Breaking and entering, assault with a deadly weapon. You could try. Luca's smile was terrible. But then I'd have to explain to the police how I have video footage of you assaulting Elena, how your fingerprints are on her throat, how multiple witnesses saw you force her into your car today. We could both spend the night explaining ourselves to law enforcement, or you could sit down, shut up, and let this be over. Derek looked at Elena. Is this really what you want? Yes. Even knowing what he is, what he does? I know enough. You know nothing. He's a criminal, Elena. The second the feds build their case, he's done, and you'll go down with him. I'll take my chances. You're making a mistake. Then it's my mistake to make. Derek's expression crumpled. For a moment, he looked exactly like the man she'd fallen in love with 2 years ago. Vulnerable, lost, desperate. Please, he whispered, don't leave me. Elena felt something twist in her chest. Not love, not anymore, but the ghost of it. The memory of what they'd been before everything went wrong. I'm sorry, she said, and meant it. Then she turned and walked out of the apartment without looking back. The Mercedes was waiting at the curb, engine running. Luca's hand stayed on Elena's lower back as they crossed the sidewalk, a steady pressure that said, I've got you without words. One of his men opened the rear door. Elena slid inside, Luca following immediately after. The door shut with a solid thunk that felt like a coffin lid closing on her old life. The car pulled away from Derek's building, and Elena watched through the tinted window as the familiar street disappeared behind them. 2 years of her life reduced to a rearview mirror image growing smaller by the second. You're shaking, Luca said. Elena looked down. He was right. Her whole body was trembling, adrenaline finally catching up now that the immediate danger had passed. I'm okay. You keep saying that, because eventually it'll be true. Luca's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. Instead, he pulled off his jacket and draped it over her shoulders. The fabric was warm from his body heat and smelled like expensive cologne and gunpowder. You kicked in his door, Elena said. Yes, that's illegal. I don't care. You could have been arrested. But I wasn't. What if Derek calls the police? He won't. How do you know? Because he's smart enough to realize that video footage of him assaulting you is worse than a breaking and entering charge. Luca's voice was flat, and because my lawyer is better than his. Elena pulled the jacket tighter around herself. Through the partition, she could see the driver navigating through Queens traffic with practiced ease. They were heading towards the bridge, toward Manhattan, toward wherever Luca was taking her next. Where are we going? She asked. Somewhere safe. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have right now. Elena's hands clenched in the jacket fabric. Derek said you're under federal investigation. Luca's expression didn't change. He wasn't lying. So it's true. Parts of it. Which parts? The parts that matter. Luca. I import goods from overseas. Sometimes those goods exist in a legal gray area. Sometimes they don't. He met her eyes. The FBI has been watching me for 2 years. They haven't found anything they can make stick. Yet. Yet, he agreed. Elena's stomach twisted. Derek said I could be implicated, that just living with you makes me an accessory. That's not how it works. Are you sure? Yes. How can you be sure? Because I've had this conversation with 3 different lawyers, and they all said the same thing. You're not involved in my business. You're not on any paperwork. You're not a partner or employee or associate. You're a woman who needed help, and I provided it. That's all. The FBI won't see it that way. Let me worry about the FBI. That's easy for you to say. No, it's not. Luca's voice went hard. Nothing about this is easy. But I made you a promise that Derek would never hurt you again. I keep my promises. Elena wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that everything would work out, but the bruises on her throat were already starting to ache, and Derek's words kept echoing in her head. You're making a mistake. You'll go down with him. What happens now? She asked quietly. Now you heal, you get stronger, and we figure out the rest. That's not a plan. It's the beginning of one. The car crossed the bridge into Manhattan. The city sprawled out before them, 1,000 buildings lit against the night sky. Elena had lived here her whole life, but suddenly it felt foreign, like she'd stepped into someone else's story. I can't go back to your apartment, she said. I know. Derek knows where it is. I know that too. So where? I have other properties. Places Derek doesn't know about, places no one knows about. Luca pulled out his phone, typed something, then showed her the screen. A brownstone in Brooklyn, elegant facade, iron gate. This one's been empty for 6 months. It's yours if you want it. Elena stared at the photo. I can't afford. I'm not asking you to afford it. I'm offering it to you. Why? Because you need a place to live. That's not. Elena. He lowered the phone. Stop questioning every kindness like it's a trap. Sometimes help is just help. Nothing is ever just anything with you. You're right. It's not. His expression softened fractionally. I'm offering you this place because I want you safe, because I want to know where you are, because the thought of you going back to that hospital apartment with locks that don't work and neighbors who ignore screams makes me want to put my fist through something. The honesty in his voice made Elena's chest ache. I don't know how to accept this. Then don't accept it. Just take it anyway. The car turned onto a tree-lined street in Brooklyn. Brownstones rose on either side, elegant and expensive. The driver pulled up in front of number 47 and cut the engine. Come on, Luca said. I'll show you. The brownstone was beautiful. High ceilings, original hardwood floors, windows that actually opened. The furniture was minimal but expensive. Clean lines, neutral colors, the kind of space that felt both luxurious and empty. Elena stood in the middle of the living room and turned in a slow circle. This is too much. It's exactly enough. I can't. You can. Luca moved through the space, checking windows, testing locks. 3 bedrooms upstairs, kitchens fully stocked. Security system is top of the line. No one gets in without a code, and I'm the only other person who has it. What about your men? What about them? They know where this is. They know where all my properties are. But they also know that if they breathe a word about this location to anyone, they'll be answering to me. His tone suggested that would not go well. Elena walked to the window. Outside, the street was quiet. A couple walked past with a dog. Normal people living normal lives. I start work again tomorrow, she said. No, you don't. I can't keep calling out, yes, you can. Luca, Derek knows where you work. He's already shown up there once. What makes you think he won't do it again? Elena's hands clenched. So I'm supposed to just quit? Give up my career because Derek can't handle rejection? Temporarily, until we handle the Derek problem permanently. And how do we do that? I'm working on it. That's ominous. It's realistic. Elena turned away from the window. I'm not asking you to hurt him. I know. I mean it. Whatever you're planning, I'm not planning violence. Luca's voice was steady. I'm planning to make him understand that you're off limits, permanently. There are ways to do that without bloodshed. What ways? Legal pressure, financial leverage, making his life uncomfortable enough that leaving you alone becomes the path of least resistance. You make it sound simple. It is simple. People respond to incentives. I just need to find Derek's. Elena wanted to argue, but exhaustion was pulling at her like a riptide. She hadn't slept properly in weeks, hadn't felt safe in months. The thought of lying down in a bed that Derek didn't know about, in a building he couldn't access, was almost overwhelming. I should shower, she said. Second door on the right upstairs. Elena climbed the stairs on shaking legs. The bedroom was as minimalist as the rest of the house. Queen bed, simple dresser, window overlooking the street. The attached bathroom had a rainfall shower and tiles that looked expensive. She turned on the water and stripped off her clothes. The bruises on her throat were fully visible now, dark purple shadows in the shape of Derek's fingers. Elena touched them gently and felt nothing, just numbness. The shower was scalding. Elena stood under the spray until her skin turned red, washing away the last traces of Derek's apartment. His smell, his touch, the 2 years of accumulated fear that had seeped into her bones. When she finally stepped out, Luca had left clothes on the bed. Another t-shirt and sweatpants, soft and clean. Elena pulled them on and collapsed onto the mattress. She meant to stay awake, meant to process everything that had happened, meant to figure out what came next. Instead, she fell asleep immediately and didn't dream at all. Morning came with the sound of someone moving downstairs. Elena jolted awake, heart hammering. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then reality crashed back. The brownstone, Luca, Derek's apartment, everything. She grabbed her phone. 7 missed calls from a number she didn't recognize. No voicemails. Just the calls themselves, evenly spaced over the past 6 hours. Derek. He'd gotten a new phone, started calling from that. When she didn't answer, he'd probably get another one. And another. He was nothing if not persistent. Elena deleted the call log and went downstairs. Luca was in the kitchen making coffee. He'd changed clothes, black jeans, gray Henley, but still looked like he hadn't slept. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. You look terrible, Elena said. Good morning to you too. Did you sleep? Some. Liar. His mouth twitched. Coffee, please. He poured her a mug. Elena wrapped her hands around it, savoring the warmth. Through the kitchen window, she could see the street waking up. People heading to work, cars pulling out of driveways, the ordinary rhythm of the city. I called your supervisor at St. Catherine's, Luca said. Elena's head snapped up. You what? Told her you're taking a leave of absence, personal emergency. She was very understanding. You had no right. I had every right. Derek's shown up at your workplace twice. The third time he might not leave when security asks. Luca's voice was firm. You're not going back there until this is resolved. That could take weeks. Then you're off work for weeks. I need the money. I'll handle it. Stop saying that. Stop pretending you have other options. Elena slammed the coffee mug down. I'm not your charity case. I never said you were. Then what am I? The question hung between them. Luca's expression shifted into something Elena couldn't quite read. You're someone I care about, he said quietly. That's all? That's not all. That's never all. Elena's voice shook. You've upended your life for me, given me a place to live, paid my bills, threatened my ex-boyfriend with violence. People don't do that without expecting something in return. I don't expect anything. Everyone expects something. Not me. Bullshit. Luca set down his own coffee. You want to know what I expect? I expect you to heal, to get stronger, to stop looking over your shoulder like Derek's going to appear any second. That's what I expect. Nothing else. Why? Because you deserve better than the hand you've been dealt. You barely know me. I know enough. That's not... The doorbell rang. They both froze. Elena's first thought was Derek. Somehow he'd found her. Somehow he'd tracked her here despite all of Luca's precautions. But Luca's expression suggested otherwise. He moved to the security panel by the door, checked the camera feed, then relaxed fractionally. "It's my lawyer," he said. "Your lawyer makes house calls?" "When I pay him enough, yes." Luca opened the door. A man in his 50s entered. Expensive suit, graying hair, carrying a leather briefcase that probably cost more than Elena's monthly rent. "Marcus," Luca said. "Thanks for coming." "Of course." Marcus's eyes found Elena. "Miss Voss, I've heard a lot about you." "None of it good, I'm sure." "On the contrary, Luca speaks very highly of your resilience." Elena had no idea how to respond to that. Marcus set his briefcase on the dining table and pulled out a stack of documents. "I've prepared everything we discussed: restraining order violation documentation, evidence of assault, witness statements from building security, medical records from your previous hospital visit." Elena's breath caught. "How did you get my medical records?" "I have resources." "That's illegal." "Technically, yes, but they'll be inadmissible in court, so the how doesn't matter. What matters is we have proof of a pattern of abuse." "For what?" "For criminal charges." Marcus spread the documents across the table. "Derek Hale violated a restraining order, coerced you into his vehicle, transported you against your will, and physically assaulted you. That's kidnapping and assault, both felonies." Elena stared at the paperwork. "You want me to press charges?" "I want you to bury him." Marcus's voice was calm, professional, like they were discussing a business transaction instead of someone's life. "File criminal charges. Pursue a civil suit for damages. Make it clear that further contact will result in legal and financial consequences he can't afford." "That's extreme?" Marcus shrugged. "Perhaps, but half measures don't work with men like Derek Hale. They see compromise as weakness. The only language they understand is overwhelming force." Elena looked at Luca. "Did you put him up to this?" "I asked him to review your options." "These aren't options. This is a declaration of war." "Derek declared war the first time he hit you. We're just responding appropriately." Marcus pulled out another document. "There's one more thing. I've prepared a temporary protective order that extends the restraining order to include your workplace, this residence, and any location where you can reasonably expect to be. If approved, Derek would face immediate arrest for any violation." "Will a judge approve it?" "With this evidence?" "Almost certainly." Elena's hands shook. She sat down before her legs could give out. All those months of telling herself she was fine, that she could handle it, that leaving would be more trouble than it was worth. And here was a lawyer calmly explaining how to dismantle Derek's entire existence with paperwork. "What if he fights back?" she asked. "Let him." Marcus's smile was sharp. "I've been doing this for 23 years. I've never lost a case involving documented domestic violence." "Never?" "Never." Luca sat down next to Elena. "You don't have to decide right now." "Yes, I do." She looked at the document spread across the table. "Because if I wait, I'll talk myself out of it." "Then don't wait." Elena picked up a pen. Her hand hovered over the first signature line. 2 years of fear and pain and survival instinct screamed at her to stop, to not provoke Derek, to keep her head down and hope he eventually lost interest. But she was done surviving. She signed her name. Boatsi Abambek. The next 72 hours moved like a freight train. Marcus filed the criminal charges on Monday morning. By Monday afternoon, Derek had been arrested at his apartment. By Tuesday, he'd posted bail and hired his own lawyer. By Wednesday, the court had approved the extended protective order. Elena watched it all unfold from the safety of the brownstone, tracking each development through Marcus's carefully worded emails. Part of her felt vindicated. The rest felt terrified. "He's going to retaliate," she said. Luca was sitting across from her in the living room, laptop open, reviewing something. "Let him try." "You keep saying that like you're not worried." "I'm not." "Why not?" "Because I'm prepared for anything he might do." "That's not possible. You can't predict—" "Elena." Luca closed the laptop. "I have men watching Derek's apartment, his workplace, and every location he frequents. I have access to his phone records, his financial transactions, his internet search history. If he so much as thinks about violating the protective order, I'll know about it before he takes the first step." Elena's stomach turned. "You're surveilling him." "Extensively. That's Illegal? Probably. Effective? Absolutely. What if you get caught? I won't. You can't know that. I can, because the people I hire are very good at their jobs. Luca's expression was calm. Too calm. Derek Hale is not going to hurt you again. I've made sure of it. Elena wanted to argue, but the certainty in his voice was almost hypnotic. This was what Luca did. This was the world he operated in, one where problems could be solved with money and muscle and surveillance that skirted the edges of legality. She should have been horrified. Instead, she felt safe. Thank you, she said quietly. Luca's expression softened. You don't need to thank me. Yes, I do. You've done more for me in 3 weeks than anyone has in years. That says more about the people around you than it does about me. Maybe. They sat in comfortable silence. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the brownstone's windows gold. Elena thought about her old apartment in Queens, about the hospital where she'd spent 5 years building a career, about all the things she'd left behind. I miss working, she said. You'll go back eventually. When? When it's safe. And when will that be? Luca didn't answer immediately. When he spoke, his voice was careful. Derek's trial is set for 6 weeks from now. If he's convicted on the assault charge, he'll serve time, probably 18 months to 3 years. And if he's not convicted, he will be. Marcus doesn't lose. You said that already. Because it's true. Elena pulled her knees to her chest. What happens after? When he gets out of prison, he'll come looking for me. Not if he's smart. Derek's not smart. He's obsessive. Then we'll handle it when the time comes. How? I don't know yet, but we will. The vagueness should have bothered her. Instead, it felt oddly reassuring, like Luca was acknowledging the uncertainty without pretending he had all the answers. I need to do something, Elena said. I can't just sit here for 6 weeks waiting for a trial. What do you want to do? I don't know. Work. Volunteer. Something that makes me feel useful. Luca considered this. I know someone who runs a women's shelter in Harlem. They're always looking for medical staff. I'm not licensed for... You have nursing experience. That's more than most of their volunteers. He pulled out his phone. Let me make a call. Right now? Why not? He dialed before Elena could protest. The conversation was brief and one-sided. When Luca hung up, he was almost smiling. You start Monday, he said. Just like that? Just like that. Elena shook her head. Do you always get what you want this easily? Usually. That must be nice. It has its advantages. Something in his tone made Elena look up. Luca was watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Intense and careful at the same time. What? She asked. Nothing. That's not a nothing look. I'm just thinking. About what? He hesitated. About how different you are now than 3 weeks ago. Different how? Stronger. More sure of yourself. His voice dropped. Less afraid. Elena's chest tightened. I'm still afraid. But you're not letting it control you anymore. Is that a good thing? It's everything. The weight of his gaze made her pulse quicken. Elena looked away, suddenly aware of how close they were sitting, how the light caught the angles of Luca's face, how his presence had become something she relied on without meaning to. I should make dinner, she said. I can order something. I want to cook. Then I'll help. They moved into the kitchen. Elena pulled ingredients from the fully stocked refrigerator while Luca found a cutting board. The domesticity of it felt surreal, chopping vegetables side by side like they'd done this 100 times before. Where did you learn to cook? Elena asked. My mother. She insisted I know how to feed myself. Smart woman. She was. Past tense. She died 4 years ago. I'm sorry. Don't be. She had a good life after she left my father. Luca's knife moved with practiced precision. Started over in Boston. Remarried, died peacefully in her sleep at 68. That's more than a lot of people get. It is. They worked in silence for a while. Elena found herself stealing glances at Luca when she thought he wasn't looking, memorizing the way he moved, the concentration on his face, the careful control he maintained, even doing something as simple as chopping onions. Can I ask you something? She said. Always. Why me? Luca's knife paused mid-stroke. What do you mean? I mean you could help anyone. You have the resources, the connections, but you chose to help me. Why? He set down the knife. I told you, my mother, I know about your mother, but there are thousands of women in situations like mine. You don't help all of them. No, I don't. So why me? Luca was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was rougher than usual. Because when I caught you on that platform, you looked at me like you'd forgotten people could be kind. Like you'd been surviving so long, you'd forgotten what it felt like to actually live. He met her eyes. And I remembered that look, from my mother, from myself after she finally left. I remembered what it took to come back from that. And I thought maybe I could help you come back too. Elena's throat tightened. It's not just about my mother. He moved closer. Somewhere along the way it became about you. About wanting to see you smile without flinching first. About wanting to hear you laugh without it sounding broken. About wanting to know what you look like when you're not afraid. Luca, I care about you, Elena, more than I should, more than is probably smart given everything else happening in my life. But I can't seem to stop. The admission hung between them. Elena's heart hammered against her ribs. I don't know what to do with that, she whispered. You don't have to do anything. I'm not asking for anything. I just needed you to know. He turned back to the cutting board, but Elena caught his wrist. Wait. Luca went very still. Elena took a breath, then another. Then she did the thing she'd been wanting to do for days but hadn't had the courage for. She kissed him. It was tentative at first, gentle, testing. Luca froze for half a second, then his hand came up to cup her face, and the kiss deepened into something that felt like falling and flying at the same time. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Luca rested his forehead against hers. We shouldn't, he said. I know. You're vulnerable. I don't care. Elena, I've spent 2 years being told what I should and shouldn't do. I'm done with that. She pulled back enough to meet his eyes. I want this. I want you. That's my choice. Not Derek's. Not yours. Mine. Luca's thumb traced her cheekbone. Are you sure? More sure than I've been about anything in a long time. He kissed her again. Slower this time. Deeper. Like he was memorizing the taste of her. Elena's hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer, and somewhere in the back of her mind a voice whispered that this was reckless and stupid and exactly what she shouldn't be doing. She ignored it. The burner phone buzzed. They broke apart. Luca pulled the phone from his pocket, glanced at the screen, and his entire expression changed. What is it? Elena asked. Derek. What about him? He violated bail conditions, skipped his check-in with his lawyer. Luca was already moving toward the door. He's in the wind. Elena's blood ran cold. What does that mean? It means he's running or planning something. Luca grabbed his jacket from the coat rack. Either way, I need to find him before he finds you. I'm coming with you. Absolutely not. Luca, you stay here. Door locked. Security system armed. My men are outside and they have orders to shoot anyone who tries to enter without the code. You're scaring me. Good. You should be scared. He moved to her, gripped her shoulders. Derek's desperate. Desperate men are dangerous. I need you to stay here where you're safe while I handle this. Handle it how? However I need to. The implication was clear. Elena's stomach twisted. Don't kill him. I won't. Promise me. Elena, promise me you won't kill him. Whatever he's done, whatever he's planning, promise me. Luca's jaw worked. I promise I won't kill him unless he gives me no other choice. It's the best I can offer. He kissed her once more, hard and desperate, then left. Elena stood alone in the kitchen, heart hammering, and listened to the sound of his footsteps fading down the stairs. The front door opened and closed. The security system beeped its activation tone. She was safe. Luca had said so. His men were outside. The building was secure. Derek didn't even know where she was, except he'd found Luca's apartment when that should have been impossible too. Elena moved to the window and peered through the blinds. The street was quiet, normal. No sign of Derek or anyone else. Her phone buzzed. Not the burner. Her regular phone. The one she'd turned off days ago. Elena stared at it. She'd powered it down. Physically watched the screen go dark. There was no way it should be on, unless someone had turned it back on remotely. With shaking hands, Elena picked up the phone. One new message from an unknown number. Found you. The lights went out. Every light in the brownstone died at once, plunging the interior into darkness. Elena's breath caught. She fumbled for her burner phone, used the screen light to navigate through the living room toward the security panel. The display was dark, dead. Someone had cut the power. A crash from the kitchen made her spin around, glass shattering, the sound of a window breaking. Elena ran for the stairs, but a figure appeared at the top, silhouetted against the moonlight from the bedroom window. Derek. "Hello, Elena," he said. "We need to talk." Elena's hand closed around the stair railing. Her mind raced through options. Run back down, scream for Luca's men outside, find a weapon, anything. But Derek was already descending the stairs with deliberate slowness, blocking her only path up. "Don't," he said quietly. "Don't run. Don't scream. We both know how this ends if you do. Your men are outside. Luca's men." Derek's smile was terrible in the darkness. "And they're currently dealing with a gas leak 2 blocks over. Amazing how fast a building evacuates when someone calls in a threat." Elena's stomach dropped. "You planned this? Of course I planned this. You think I'm stupid?" He reached the bottom of the stairs. "I've had 3 days to think about nothing but you. About how you humiliated me. How you chose him over me. How you destroyed everything we built together. We didn't build anything. You tore me down piece by piece. I loved you. You controlled me. Same thing." "It's not." Derek's hand shot out and grabbed her wrist. Elena tried to jerk away, but his grip was iron. 2 years, Elena. 2 years I gave you, fed you, put a roof over your head. And this is how you repay me? Criminal charges? A restraining order? Trying to send me to prison? You put your hands on me. Because you made me. I didn't make you do anything. You did. Every time you pulled away. Every time you looked at me like I was a monster. You created this." His fingers dug into her wrist, finding the exact spots where old bruises had been. "So now you get to fix it." Elena's free hand scrabbled along the wall, searching for anything she could use as a weapon. Her fingers closed around a picture frame. She swung it hard at Derek's head. He caught her wrist mid-swing. The frame clattered to the floor. "Nice try," he said. Then he shoved her backward into the wall. Elena's head cracked against the plaster. Stars burst across her vision. "Stop," she gasped. "I'll stop when you listen." "I'm listening?" "No, you're not. You're plotting, figuring out how to get away, how to call for help." Derek's face was inches from hers now. She could smell alcohol on his breath. "But there's no help coming. Luca's halfway across the city chasing a false lead. His men are occupied. The power's out. The security system's dead. It's just you and me. Like it should have been from the beginning." Elena's pulse hammered in her throat. "What do you want?" "I want you to come home." "I can't." "You can. You will." "Derek, we'll leave the city, start over somewhere else, California maybe, or Florida. Somewhere warm, somewhere no one knows us." His voice took on a pleading edge. "We can fix this, Elena. We can go back to how it was." "How it was?" Elena's voice broke. "You mean when you were breaking my ribs? When I was starving myself because eating meant staying longer? When I slept in my scrubs because undressing made me too vulnerable?" "I never meant—" "You meant all of it. Every bruise, every threat, every time you made me small enough to disappear." She met his eyes in the darkness. "I'm not going back to that. I'm not going back to you." Derek's expression shifted from desperation to rage so fast Elena barely saw it coming. His hand closed around her throat, not squeezing, not yet, just resting there with enough pressure to make breathing difficult. "You don't get to say no to me," he said quietly. Elena's hands came up, clawing at his wrist. "Let go." "Not until you understand." "Understand what?" "That I'm the only one who's ever going to love you. The only one who'll put up with your shit, your stubbornness, your—" The front door exploded inward. Wood splintered. The security system let out a dying wail. And then Luca was there, gun drawn. 2 of his men behind him with their own weapons raised. Let her go, Luca said. His voice was absolutely calm, absolutely controlled, the kind of calm that preceded violence. Derek's hand tightened on Elena's throat. You were supposed to be across town. I was. Then I realized you were too smart to leave a trail that obvious. Luca's eyes never left Derek's face. Let her go. Now. Or what? You'll shoot me? With witnesses? In front of her? If I have to. You won't. You're too careful, too smart to risk a murder charge. Try me. The two men stared at each other across the darkened room. Elena could feel Derek's pulse hammering against her jaw where his hand pressed against her throat, could feel the rage vibrating through him like a live wire. She's mine, Derek said. She's no one's, Luca replied, especially not yours. I loved her first. You hurt her first. That's not love. You don't know anything about love. You're a criminal, a thug. The second the feds build their case, you'll be in prison and she'll be alone again. Maybe, but at least she'll be alive. Derek's grip shifted. For a moment, Elena thought he might actually let go. Then his hand tightened and black spots danced across her vision. Luca's gun never wavered. Last chance, Derek. Let her go or I put a bullet in your knee and you spend the next 6 months learning to walk again. You're bluffing. I never bluff. The safety clicked off. The sound was very loud in the quiet room. Derek's hand loosened fractionally. Elena sucked in a desperate breath. Good, Luca said. Now step back, slowly. Derek didn't move. If I let her go, you'll kill me. No, I won't. Liar. I don't want to kill you. I want you in prison where you belong. But if you make me choose between your life and hers, we both know which one I'm picking. The certainty in Luca's voice was absolute. Derek's hand trembled against Elena's throat. She ruined everything, Derek said. His voice cracked. We were happy. We were good together. Then she just gave up, stopped trying. She didn't give up, Elena said hoarsely. She survived you. Derek's eyes snapped to hers. What? I survived you. Every day. Every hour. I survived the version of you that hits first and apologizes later. The version that blames me for your anger. The version that makes promises in the morning and breaks them by night. Her voice gained strength. I survived you, Derek. And now I'm done. Elena, I'm done being afraid. Done making excuses. Done shrinking myself small enough to fit into your idea of what I should be. She grabbed his wrist with both hands. So you have two choices. Let go now and walk away. Or don't. And find out exactly how far Luca's willing to go to keep me safe. Derek's jaw worked. His grip tightened for one terrible second. Then he shoved Elena away hard enough that she stumbled. Luca's men were on him immediately. They had Derek face down on the floor, hands zip-tied behind his back, before Elena's vision cleared. Luca crossed to her in 3 strides. His hands were gentle as they tilted her chin up, examining her throat in the moonlight streaming through the window. Are you hurt? He asked. I'm okay. Elena, I'm okay. She grabbed his wrist, holding on like he might disappear. I'm okay. Derek thrashed against the zip ties. This isn't over. You hear me, Elena? This isn't over. I'll find you again. I'll always find you. You can't hide from me. You can't. One of Luca's men dragged him to his feet and hauled him toward the broken door. Derek's voice faded as they pulled him outside, still screaming threats, still promising revenge. Elena sank down onto the stairs. Her legs wouldn't hold her anymore. Luca sat down next to her. The police are on their way. Good. He violated bail, broke into a residence, assaulted you. He's not getting out this time. How long? With Marcus prosecuting, 5 to 7 years minimum. Elena closed her eyes. 5 to 7 years. It wasn't forever, but it was enough time to breathe, enough time to rebuild. Thank you, she whispered. You don't need to. Thank you. She turned to face him. For coming back. For keeping your promise. For being exactly what you said you'd be. Luca's hand found hers in the darkness. I told you. I keep my promises. Outside, sirens wailed closer. Red and blue lights painted the walls through the broken doorway. Elena squeezed Luca's hand and felt something inside her chest unclench for the first time in 2 years. It was over. Derek was gone. She was free. The next 6 weeks passed in a blur of depositions and court dates and lawyer meetings that all blurred together into one extended exercise in reliving trauma. Elena told her story to police officers, prosecutors, judges, showed them the bruises, the medical records, the documentation of 2 years spent surviving someone who claimed to love her. Derek's lawyer tried to paint her as vindictive, as a woman scorned seeking revenge. But Marcus dismantled every argument with surgical precision, presenting evidence so overwhelming that even Derek's own attorney looked uncomfortable. The trial lasted 4 days. The jury deliberated for 2 hours, guilty on all counts. Elena wasn't there when they read the verdict. She'd already said everything she needed to say. Instead, she was at the women's shelter in Harlem, teaching a basic first aid class to women who looked at her with the same hollow exhaustion she'd carried for months. Luca texted her when it was done. "It's over. He got 7 years." Elena stared at the message for a long time. 7 years. Derek would be 40 when he got out. She'd be 34. Different people, different lives. She texted back, "Thank you. Come home when you're done." Home. The word felt strange. The brownstone had become that somehow, not Derek's apartment with its broken dishes and holes in the walls, but this new space where she could breathe without flinching first. When the class ended, Elena took the subway back to Brooklyn. The city rushed past the windows, a million lives intersecting without touching. She thought about the platform where this had all started, where Luca had caught her before she fell, literally and metaphorically. The brownstone's lights were on when she arrived. Luca was in the kitchen making dinner, something that had become their routine over the past weeks. He looked up when she entered. "How was class?" he asked. "Good. Taught them how to treat burns. Useful skill. You'd be surprised how often it comes up." They moved around each other with practiced ease. Elena set the table while Luca finished cooking. They ate together, talking about nothing important, and it felt so normal Elena almost couldn't believe it was real. After dinner, Luca poured them both wine and they sat on the couch watching the city lights through the window. "Marcus called," Luca said. "The civil suit is moving forward. Derek's going to have to liquidate assets to pay the settlement. I don't want his money. You deserve compensation." "I deserve peace, that's all." Luca was quiet for a moment. "What are you going to do now?" "What do you mean?" "Derek's in prison. The trial's over. You're safe." He turned to face her. "What comes next?" Elena hadn't let herself think about that. She'd been so focused on surviving the trial, on getting through each day, that she hadn't planned beyond it. "I don't know," she said honestly. "Go back to work, maybe. Find my own place eventually. Figure out who I am when I'm not running." "You don't have to leave." "I can't stay here forever." "Why not?" "Because this is your place, your life. I can't just—" "I want you here," Luca said. "Simple as that. For as long as you want to stay." Elena's chest tightened. "What are we doing, Luca?" "What do you mean?" "This. Us. I've been living in your house for 6 weeks. We cook dinner together. She gestured vaguely. "What is this? What do you want it to be?" "That's not an answer." "It's the only answer I have." He set down his wine glass. "I can't tell you what this is because I don't know. All I know is that I'm happier when you're here than when you're not. That I look forward to coming home because you're in it. That for the first time in years, I'm building something that isn't just business or survival." "What are you building?" "I don't know yet, but I'd like to find out. With you, if you want." Elena wanted to say yes immediately, wanted to fall into this thing between them without questioning it. But 2 years with Derek had taught her to be careful about promises made in the heat of emotion. "I need time," she said. "Take all the time you need. I need to figure out who I am, without Derek, without—" She stopped. "Without needing to be saved." "You don't need saving." "I did. 3 months ago I did. And you saved me. But I can't build a life with you if I'm still that person. If I'm still the woman who collapsed on a subway platform because she forgot how to ask for help." Luca's expression was unreadable. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I need to stand on my own first. I need to go back to work, get my own place, prove to myself that I can survive without someone, even someone good, propping me up. And then maybe we can figure out what this is. That could take months. I know. I'll wait." "You don't have to—" "I'll wait," Luca said again. however long it takes. Elena's throat tightened. What if I can't do it? What if I try to stand on my own and I just fall apart? Then I'll catch you, same as before. He reached for her hand. But I don't think you will. I think you're stronger than you know. You just need to prove it to yourself. How do you know? Because I've watched you survive Derek, survive the trial, survive everything that should have broken you. That takes a kind of strength most people don't have. Elena wanted to believe him, wanted to believe she was capable of being the person he saw when he looked at her, the person who could stand on her own and choose to be with someone instead of needing to be. Okay, she said. Okay, I'll try. I'll go back to work, find an apartment, figure out who Elena Voss is when she's not afraid. She squeezed his hand. But I need you to promise me something. Anything. If I ask you to catch me, you will. Even if it's months from now, even if you've moved on. If I call and I need you, I'll be there. Luca's voice was absolute. Always. They sat in silence, hands clasped, and Elena felt something shift inside her. Not healing exactly. That would take time. But the beginning of it. The first crack in the armor she'd built around herself. Thank you, she whispered. For what? For seeing me. When everyone else looked away. Luca pulled her close. Elena let herself lean into him, just for a moment, soaking up his warmth and steadiness. Then she pulled back. I should pack, she said. You're leaving tonight? Tomorrow, but I should... She gestured vaguely. Start. Elena, I need to do this before I lose my nerve. He nodded slowly. I'll help. They went upstairs together. Elena pulled out a duffel bag she'd bought weeks ago and started folding clothes. It didn't take long. She hadn't accumulated much. Luca watched from the doorway. Where will you go? St. Catherine's has housing for staff. It's not much, but it's safe. And it's mine. When do you start back? Monday. 3 days. Elena had 3 days to prepare for stepping back into her old life with a completely different skin. She zipped the duffel bag and turned to face Luca. He looked exactly as he had that first night on the platform. Dark eyes, controlled intensity, the kind of handsome that felt dangerous. But she wasn't afraid anymore. Will you visit? He asked. If you want me to. I want you to. Then I will. They stood in the doorway, the space between them charged with all the things neither of them was ready to say. I meant what I said earlier, Luca said quietly, about waiting. I know. I'm not good at patience. Then this will be good practice. His mouth twitched. You're different than you were. Is that bad? It's everything. Elena kissed him, soft and brief and full of promise. Then she picked up her bag and walked downstairs without looking back. Because looking back was for people who weren't sure. And Elena was sure. She was sure she needed to do this. Sure she needed to prove she could survive without him before she let herself love him. Sure that 3 months from now, or 6 months from now, or however long it took, she'd walk back through his door as someone whole instead of someone broken. Luca followed her down. His driver was already waiting outside. I'll call you, Elena said. Please do. And if anything happens, if Derek gets out early, or... He won't. But if he does, you call me immediately. I will. She got in the car. Through the window, she could see Luca standing on the steps, hands in his pockets, watching her leave. She lifted her hand in a small wave. He nodded once. The car pulled away. Elena watched the brownstone disappear behind her and felt her chest tighten with something that wasn't quite grief. More like anticipation. Like the moment before a jump when you know you're going to fly but your body hasn't caught up yet. She was flying, finally. 6 months later, Elena stood in front of a mirror in her tiny apartment above a bodega in Washington Heights. The space was cramped and the heating was unreliable, and her neighbors were loud, but it was hers. Paid for with her own money from her own job. She'd gained back 20 pounds. Her hair was longer. The shadows under her eyes had faded. She looked like herself again. Better than herself. Like a version of Elena Voss who'd been forged in fire and come out stronger. Her phone buzzed, a text from Luca. Dinner tonight? My place? They'd been doing this dance for months. Careful dates, slow kisses, building something that felt less like rescue and more like partnership. Elena typed back, "I'll bring wine. Looking forward to it." She smiled at the screen, then she locked her apartment and headed out into the city. The subway platform where it all started was 3 stops away. Sometimes Elena took that route on purpose, standing at the yellow line and remembering the girl who'd collapsed there 6 months ago, who'd been caught by a stranger with dark eyes and careful hands. But today she took a different train, a different route, because she wasn't that girl anymore. She was someone new, someone stronger, someone who'd survived Derek and the trial, and the slow hard work of rebuilding herself piece by piece, someone who was ready to choose love instead of needing it. The train emerged from the tunnel into daylight. Elena watched the city blur past and thought about the brownstone waiting for her, about Luca making dinner in that beautiful kitchen, about the life they might build together now that she was whole enough to meet him as an equal. 6 months ago she'd been dying, slowly, quietly, one day at a time. Now she was living, really living, and it felt like flying. Luca answered the door before she knocked. "You're early," he said. "Traffic was light. Or you were eager. Maybe both." He smiled and pulled her inside. The brownstone looked exactly the same. Exposed brick, high ceilings, furniture that felt lived in, but it felt different too. Warmer. More like a home than a safe house. "I made pasta," Luca said. "Your favorite." "You remembered." "I remember everything." They ate dinner at the table by the window overlooking the street. Talked about work, about Elena's patience, about the foundation Luca was starting for domestic violence survivors. The conversation flowed easy and natural, like they'd been doing this for years instead of months. After dinner, they moved to the couch. Luca poured wine. Elena kicked off her shoes and tucked her feet under her. "I have something to tell you," she said. Luca's expression went carefully neutral. "Good or bad?" "Good, I think." Elena took a breath. "Marcus called. The civil suit settled. Derek's paying $200,000. That's good. I'm donating it." "To what?" "Your foundation, the one for survivors." She met his eyes. "I don't want his money, but other women need it. Women who are where I was 6 months ago. Women who need help getting out." Luca was quiet for a long moment. "Don't say generous. It's not generous. It's necessary." "It's both." Elena shrugged. "Maybe. You've changed. You keep saying that." "Because it keeps being true." He set down his wine. 6 months ago, you could barely look me in the eye. Now you're sitting here telling me you're donating a small fortune to help strangers. They're not strangers. They're women who need what you gave me, a chance. What I gave you was a place to crash. You gave me hope." Elena's voice softened. "You gave me the first real kindness I'd had in years, and that hope kept me alive long enough to figure out how to save myself. You saved yourself. With help, your help. And now you're paying it forward." "Exactly." Luca reached for her hand. "I'm proud of you." The words hit harder than Elena expected. She blinked back sudden tears. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For waiting, for not pushing, for letting me figure out who I am without Derek." "Did you? Figure it out?" "I think so, or at least I'm getting there." She squeezed his hand. "I know what I want now." "What do you want?" "This. You. Us." Elena took a breath. "But not because I need saving, because I choose it. Because you make me laugh and you challenge me, and when I'm with you, I feel like the best version of myself." "Elena, I love you." The words came out quiet but certain. "I don't know when it happened. Maybe on that platform 6 months ago. Maybe the first time you made me dinner. Maybe yesterday when you texted me a terrible joke about hospital food. But I love you, and I wanted you to know." Luca's hand tightened on hers. "You're sure? More sure than I've been about anything. Because 6 months ago you said, I know what I said. I needed time to stand on my own, to prove I could survive without someone propping me up." She moved closer. "But surviving isn't the same as living, and I want to live. With you. If you still want that." "If I still—" Luca laughed, short and disbelieving. "Elena, I've thought about nothing but you for 6 months. Counted down the days until you were ready. Wondered if you'd ever come back, or if you'd realize you were better off alone. I'm not better off alone. Neither am I. He kissed her, slow and deep and full of 6 months of waiting. Elena kissed him back and felt something inside her chest finally settle into place. This was right. This was real. This was what love felt like when it wasn't twisted up with fear and control. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Luca rested his forehead against hers. "Move back in," he said. "What?" "Move back in. Not because you need to, because you want to." His thumb traced her cheekbone. "Build a life here. With me." Elena's heart hammered. "That's fast. We've been doing this for 6 months. I've been independent for 6 months. And you can stay independent. Keep your apartment if you want. Keep working. Keep doing everything you're doing. Just do it from here. Come home to me instead of an empty apartment above a bodega." "I like that apartment." "I know you do. But do you like it more than this?" Elena looked around the brownstone, at the kitchen where they cooked together, the couch where they'd spent countless evenings talking, the life they'd been building slowly and carefully. "No," she admitted. "I don't." "Then move in." "What about your business, the federal investigation?" "Marcus is handling it. They don't have enough evidence to move forward. Probably never will." Luca's voice was steady. "I'm getting out anyway. Transitioning to legitimate business, the foundation, import-export that actually involves legal goods." "Why?" "Because I don't want to spend the rest of my life looking over my shoulder. And because," he paused, "because you make me want to be better. To build something clean, something real." Elena's throat tightened. "That's a lot of pressure. You can handle it." "How do you know?" "Because you've handled everything else." He was right. She had. She'd survived Derek, survived the trial, survived 6 months of rebuilding herself from nothing. She could handle this too. "Okay," she said. "Okay? I'll move in. Not because I need to, because I want to." Luca's smile was brilliant. "When?" "Give me 2 weeks to sort out my lease. I'll help." "I know you will." They kissed again, softer this time. Elena let herself sink into it, into him, into the certainty that this was exactly where she was supposed to be. 1 year later, Elena stood in that same living room surrounded by boxes. The brownstone had transformed over the past months. Her books lined the shelves next to Luca's, her photos hung on the walls, her favorite blanket was draped over the couch. It wasn't his space or her space anymore. It was theirs. Luca came downstairs carrying another box. "That's the last of it. Finally." "You have too many books." "There's no such thing as too many books." "Our shelves disagree." Elena laughed. "Then we'll buy more shelves. We'll need a bigger place. Eventually." Luca set down the box and crossed to her. "There's something I want to show you." "What?" He pulled an envelope from his jacket. "Open it." Elena did. Inside were architectural drawings, plans for a building, not residential, something larger. "What is this?" she asked. "A shelter, 3 stories. Space for 30 women and their children. Medical clinic on the 1st floor. Counseling services on the 2nd. Housing on the 3rd. Luca pointed to the details. "I bought the building last month. Construction starts in the spring." Elena's breath caught. "You're building a shelter." "We're building a shelter, if you want to be involved." "Of course I want to be involved." "Good, because I need someone to run the medical clinic." "Luca, I'm serious. You have the experience, the compassion, the understanding of what these women need because you've been there." He met her eyes. "Will you do it?" Elena stared at the drawings. A shelter, a real one, with medical care and counseling and space for women to heal. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I'll do it." Luca pulled her close. They stood together in their living room looking at the plans for something bigger than both of them, something that would outlast them, something built on the ashes of Elena's worst year and Luca's careful redemption. "We should celebrate," Luca said. "How?" He reached into his other pocket and pulled out a small box. Elena's heart stopped. "I know it's fast," Luca said. "I know we've only been living together for a year, But I also know I want to spend the rest of my life building things with you, shelters and foundations and whatever else we dream up. He opened the box. Inside was a ring, simple band, single stone, elegant and understated. Will you marry me? Elena looked at the ring, at Luca's face, at the architectural drawings spread across the table. A year ago, she'd been broken. 6 months ago, she'd been healing. Now she was whole, and she was ready. Yes, she said. Luca's smile could have lit the city. He slid the ring onto her finger, and it fit perfectly. They kissed, surrounded by boxes and building plans and the life they'd built from nothing. Outside, the city hummed with its usual chaos. But in here, everything was quiet, safe, home, gisit. 18 months later, Elena stood in front of St. Catherine's Hospital wearing a white dress. It wasn't a fancy wedding, just close friends, Luca's driver who'd become something like family, and a handful of women from the shelter whose lives had changed because someone had bothered to help. Luca waited at the end of the aisle in a dark suit, hands clasped, eyes steady. When Elena started walking toward him, his expression softened into something that looked like reverence. The ceremony was brief, simple vows, promises to build a life together, to be partners, to choose each other every day. When the officiant said they could kiss, Luca pulled Elena close and whispered, "I've got you." "I know," she whispered back. "I've got you too." They kissed as husband and wife, and the small crowd applauded. After the ceremony, they stood on the hospital steps taking photos. Someone asked how they met. "On a subway platform," Elena said. "She fell," Luca added. "I caught her." "And you've been catching her ever since?" Luca looked at Elena. "Actually, she's been catching me." Elena squeezed his hand. It was the truth. She'd saved him as much as he'd saved her, maybe more. They drove to the shelter after the reception. The building was finished now, gleaming white facade, windows that let in light. 30 women currently called it home. 30 women who were learning to stand on their own the way Elena had. Inside, someone had hung a banner. "Congratulations, Luca and Elena." One of the residents approached, a woman named Sarah with a black eye that was almost healed and a daughter who clung to her leg. "Thank you," Sarah said quietly, "for everything." "You did the hard part," Elena replied. "We just gave you a place to do it." "Still." "Thank you." Elena hugged her. Over Sarah's shoulder, she could see Luca talking to another resident, listening with the same careful attention he'd given Elena that first night in the diner. This was what they'd built. Not just a shelter, not just a marriage, but a life that mattered, a life that helped people who needed it most. 6 months later, Elena stood in the bathroom of the brownstone staring at a pregnancy test. 2 lines, she was pregnant. Her hands shook as she set down the test. A baby. She and Luca were going to have a baby. Terror and joy warred in her chest. She thought about Derek, about the version of herself who'd been too afraid to eat, too broken to imagine a future. That woman wouldn't have survived this, wouldn't have been strong enough to bring a child into the world. But Elena wasn't that woman anymore. She was stronger now. Whole. Ready. She found Luca in the kitchen making dinner. He looked up when she entered. "You okay?" he asked. "You look pale." "I'm pregnant." The knife clattered to the cutting board. Luca stared at her. "You're pregnant. 8 weeks, I think. I'm pregnant." "Are you sure?" She held up the test. "Pretty sure." Luca crossed the kitchen in 2 strides and pulled her into his arms. "We're having a baby." "Yes." "A actual baby. That's generally how pregnancy works." He laughed against her hair. "I'm going to be a father." "You're going to be a great father." "How do you know?" "Because I've watched you with the women at the shelter, with their kids. You're patient and kind, and you actually listen." She pulled back to look at him. "You're going to be amazing." Luca's eyes were bright. I don't know what we need to do. Doctor's appointment, prenatal vitamins, baby books, all of that. But first, Elena took his hand and placed it on her still flat stomach. "First, we just be happy." "I am happy." "Good. Me too." They stood in the kitchen with Luca's hand on her stomach, and Elena felt the last piece of her old life finally fall away. The girl who'd collapsed on a subway platform was gone completely now. In her place was a woman who'd survived hell and come out stronger. A woman who'd found love and built a life worth living. A woman who was going to be a mother. 9 months later, Elena gave birth to a daughter. They named her Sophia, after Luca's mother, after the woman who'd survived her own darkness and found the strength to start over. Elena held Sophia in the hospital room while Luca sat beside her, one hand on their daughter's impossibly small head. "She's perfect," he whispered. "She is. Thank you." "For what?" "For fighting, for surviving, for choosing to build this life with me." His voice cracked. "Thank you for not giving up." Elena's eyes burned. "Thank you for catching me. Always." Outside, the city rushed past, indifferent and enormous. But in this room, everything was small and precious and exactly right. 3 years after that first night on the platform, Elena had everything she'd never let herself dream about. A husband who loved her, a daughter who depended on her, a career that mattered, a life built on choice instead of fear. She'd fallen. Luca had caught her, and together they'd learned to fly. Not a rescue story, a love story, a survival story. A story about two broken people who found each other in the darkness and built something beautiful out of the wreckage. Not perfect, not easy, but real. And that was everything. 5 years later, Elena stood on a subway platform holding Sophia's hand. Her daughter was 4 now, curious and fearless, and completely unaware that this platform had changed her mother's life. They were heading home from the park, both tired and happy. The train pulled in. Elena lifted Sophia into her arms and stepped aboard. As the doors closed, she caught sight of a woman slumped against the far wall, young, maybe 25, thin, exhausted, bruises on her wrist that she tried to hide. Elena's breath caught. She knew that look, that posture, that careful way of making yourself invisible. The train lurched forward. Elena made a decision. She crossed the car and sat down next to the woman. "Hi," Elena said gently. "Are you okay?" The woman's eyes widened. "I'm fine." "You keep saying that." "Because it's true." Elena pulled a card from her wallet. The shelter's information, contact number, address. "When you're ready," she said, pressing it into the woman's hand. "Call this number. Someone will help." You don't need to decide right now. Just keep the card." The woman stared at it, then at Elena, then at Sophia, who was watching the whole exchange with wide eyes. "What is this place?" the woman asked. "A shelter. For women who need somewhere safe." You don't have to explain. Just know it exists, and when you're ready, they'll be there." The train pulled into the next station. Elena stood, Sophia still in her arms. "Take care of yourself," she said. She stepped off the train without looking back, because looking back was for people who weren't sure, and Elena was sure. She'd survived, she'd healed, she'd built a life worth living. Now she was paying it forward, one woman at a time, one card at a time, one moment of kindness in a city built on indifference. Sophia tugged on her sleeve. "Mama, why did you give that lady our card?" "Because she needed it, baby." "How do you know?" "Because I used to be her." "And someone helped you?" "Yes, someone helped me." "Who?" Elena smiled. "Your father. He helped me when I didn't even know I needed it." They walked home through the city, past the hospital where Elena had worked, past Derek's old apartment, now occupied by strangers, past all the ghosts of her old life. When they reached the brownstone, Luca was waiting on the steps. "How was the park?" he asked. "Good." Elena handed Sophia to him. "We gave away a card." Understanding flashed across his face. "Another one?" "Young woman on the train. She looked like you did." "Exactly like I did." Luca pulled both of them close. "You're doing good work." "We're doing good work." True. They went inside together. Their family, their home, their life built on the ruins of everything that had tried to destroy them. That night, after Sophia was asleep, Elena and Luca sat on the couch like they had 1,000 times before. "I've been thinking," Elena said. "About what?" "About expanding the shelter, opening a second location." "Where?" "Queens, near where I used to live. near where women like me are still trapped. Luca considered this. It would be expensive. I know. Take at least 2 years to get permits and funding. I know that too. We'd have to hire more staff, find another building, navigate city bureaucracy. All true, he smiled. Let's do it. Really? Really? If you're ready. Elena thought about the woman on the train, about all the women still trapped in situations like she'd been, about the difference one safe place could make. I'm ready, she said. Then we'll make it happen. They sat in comfortable silence, making plans, dreaming bigger, building the future one decision at a time. Outside, the city hummed its endless song. Inside, everything was exactly as it should be. Not perfect, not easy, but real, and chosen, and loved. And that was everything.